Live? Probably live. Hello and welcome to the Legends of Tabletop podcast. We're getting ready to jump into a brand new game. We have a new core world that's coming out soon, designed by our own Jesse. It's called Runners. It's a post-apocalyptic setting where your dude's running to find stuff in big mechanical suits. I don't know, Jesse, take it away. You tell them what it's all about.
Good intro, thanks.
Doing my best.
So the whole setting of Runners takes place sometime in a near distant future, running off the core system, as John points to his shirt.
Love the shirt, John. Love it.
All right. I'm gonna say, side note, I'm upset. I wore mine yesterday at work, and like halfway through my shift, I'm like, oh, I should have saved this till tomorrow.
I purposefully saved this so I could wear it tonight.
Nice.
So, John, do you actually have Kool-Aid in that mug? Because you're drinking it really hard. Holy smokes!
No, I have some nice warm apple cider in here, and it's fantastic.
Nice.
You know what, Jesse? You could have worn the same shirt twice in a row because only people who work with you would have known.
Oh, that's really true.
And I doubt they're in our viewing audience.
To be fair, I worked it. I wore it for a 13-hour shift, and I wore it for about 18 hours total. So I'm not sure I would want to sit with myself right now after wearing that.
I'm kind of surprised because as like an RPG nerd, like isn't that your job to like sit
to just sit around and smell?
Long time?
True.
I mean, come on.
Especially in winter, it's gotten really cold this last week. It just dropped. And I'm like, this sweater ain't coming off. I don't care what I smell like.
Nah. All right. I'm gonna redo the intro after we do all this, so you can edit all that out, John. Don't worry.
Okay.
So what I love though, so Todd, you just said that the temperature dropped. It's 35 degrees here right now.
It was 39 here this morning.
No way.
Yeah,
wow.
We're at a 40-degree swing right now.
That's insane.
Yeah, but this is Vegas, so if it gets below 50, we lose our minds.
Right, I bet, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start over again.
All right, I'm going to mute.
This way you'll have a nice edit point. You won't edit. All right, so Runners is based on the core role-playing system designed by our house GM Todd. The whole setting takes place in a near distant future, post-apocalyptic. It's future enough that there is, advanced technology and all that kind of stuff. But it's also post-apocalyptic, so some of that's lost, and it's also super rare. So it makes for some interesting times. The entire thing takes place after nuclear war, basically, where there are now large scales of highly radioactive areas, and people have found themselves huddled together in these small pockets of safe zones called Null Zones. And that is where our runners are from. And the whole point of a runner is they're basically like the Pony Express, except in heavily secured and extremely expensive mech suits. They're all personalized mech suits, so this isn't like Pacific Rim or anything like that. You're still about the size of a regular human. You just kind of strap yourself into this thing, and they are outfitted however the runner would like. Depending on what their job is, what they like to deliver, what they like to do. Do they like to carry a lot of stuff? Do they like to go super fast? It's really all up to you. You can create whatever you'd like with it. And the runners go from null zone to null zone through what we affectionately call the burnt, which is the highly radioactive areas. And they try to either get in and out in search of scraps and important items, or they deliver stuff from one area to another, spreading resources and trying to keep each other alive. What else do you want?
Well, sounds good. Whatever.
Yeah.
You want to have
Okay, so,
everybody introduce characters and all that stuff?
Yeah. Oh, what do you got, Todd?
Well, I was just kind of wondering because before everybody else jumped in, John was talking about his character's age, which he's now set at 25, I think you said.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And my character is 10. So we're a really young group. So I was just wondering about the other two guys. How old do your characters end up being? Kevin, you're like 15?
No, 24.
No, I'm 15. My character is,
Oh, Kurt's 15?
and my inner child also.
Away from the table.
Okay, cool. It's a really young group of PCs is where I'm going with this.
Played by a bunch of old dudes.
Played by a bunch of old white dudes.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing with runners. It's an insanely dangerous job. You can never, unless you're able to really last in, or if you have a sponsor and you're, there are runners out there who are either sponsored by the zone that they live in or by an insanely wealthy corporation that are able to deck themselves out in very protective suits. But
okay, so this is my next question because it has to do with world building and it has to do a little bit with the question about age and how long it's been since the big boom. And it kind of feels to me like you said there were decades of war.
Yes.
But it either came to an end like 10 years ago, or at least where we are, it affected us 10 years ago. Like maybe we were in a pocket that stayed pretty safe. We were in a state that nobody was interested in bombing for some reason.
Yeah.
Name a state.
I mean, it could have also happened, I mean, war doesn't happen all at once too. Whatever continent or country that you're living in, the East Coast could have gotten in war first, and then it kind of spread through, and maybe the West Coast was attacked afterwards.
The time question then is also tied to a space question in the sense of how much of are we in the U.S.? Are we in North America? I don't know. How much of the continent is destroyed and how much of it, or burnt, and how much of it still exists? Are there still corporations with enough power to keep their lights on?
So I mean that's one of the big things, and we were talking about this earlier on the Core RPG Discord channel, that you could I kind of leave things very similar to the length of the war, what the war was, how long it's been since the war. I kind of leave that up to slight vagary, just to suit for campaign to campaign purposes. The same thing with this, in theory, this could be, the West Coast of the West Coast of the United States of North America. It could be the entire world was thrown into complete nuclear fallout. It could just be, we could be in China or Russia. And the burnt could just be one portion of a continent that is affected. Or this could be, a worldwide epidemic.
Okay.
But
I think it's smart to design it with that ambiguity in mind, because even the same group on a different night or with different characters or in a different phase of their lives might want to play the campaign differently. Same rules.
Exactly, yeah.
Different campaign. Okay, so that's great. I mean, just like Apocalypse World, the Psychic Maelstrom is different every time. The Apocalypse is different every time you make it. Okay, so does that mean we need to do kind of like a session 0 world building?
No,
but that wasn't what tonight was for.
I mean, I also think one of the things that you could always do is, I like to do this with a lot of games that I play too, is that you start super small, and as far as this session is concerned, and as far as these characters are concerned at this moment, the only thing that matters is the null zone that they're in, the burnt area that surrounds them. If we were to play these characters later on, at that point, a second null zone would be important if we wanted to do a mission like that. If we could expand it out at that point. But
Okay,
the thing
so
I like to
maybe-
do is
so maybe I'm
the only
asking
thing that
you-
matters is what matters right now. So
Okay, and I think that's cool and it's core and that's great.
Mhm.
Okay, but as trying to get my grasp on my character and situate him in the world, my character comes from the burnt.
Yep.
He's raised by an ex who's now dead, and then was like found, right? Wild child. Okay, so even if I don't know fuck about the history or the specifics of the war, or even the name of the continent that I live on, I still probably have a sense of like, is it 50-50? How much of the world is destroyed, and how much of the world is those people with buildings and power and generators and jobs? Is it 50-50? Is it 10-90? That's what I'm.
I would counter with a thought with this thought, especially as an orphan, and if you're 10, and I'm assuming you've been orphaned for quite some time now. Even if it's 2 or 3 years, at that point you were.
I'm thinking Dad died a year or two ago. Old enough, because I had to be old enough to learn how to fend for myself.
Yep.
So I learned how to, set traps and be wary and move cautiously and all that. shit.
Well, so did you have time then for education of, of history of geography outside of what existed? Yeah, outside of what existed to what was super important to survival.
Probably not. I'm sure.
Hold on. I'm gonna call timeout.
What?
All of this is cool. This goes way beyond the scope of tonight's game, right?
Okay.
Tonight's game is play testing mechanics and all the world stuff and all the other stuff. It is really relevant.
You got two people who love to create stories. I apologize.
But like we know Kurt's not going to be up super late, right?
Very
so
true.
We're going to get a game in.
Good
we
point.
need to get a game.
All right, let's get a game in.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we want to like get a run in. We want to, talk about generating the zone and all that kind of stuff, just to see what works. If something is glaringly, obviously not working in play, then that would be because you're done, right? Like runners is essentially done. So we want to make sure that it's actually done. So like everything outside of does this work or not is not really relevant.
All right.
I mean, just to get us on track here, because we can talk about world stuff for another 3-hour core episode, but that's not what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, but as a compromise, I think we're going to need to create at least the barest, simplest rule about world building. Maybe it is as simple as any of us can make it up as we go. Anyone else can object that moment. If you don't object that moment, it's canon.
That's usually how I play my games anyway.
All
right. Let's see. We have the Null Zones. We have the Burnt. At this point, as far as your characters are concerned, the story that we are going to be going into, you are apprenticed runners under a master runner called Paulson. All right. Paulson has been a runner for most of his life, and he is fairly old for a runner at the ripe old age of 43. And he has been ready to retire for quite some time now. And so that is why he took the 4 of you on as apprentices, first to help him kind of keep the shop running and to get everything going as well. And then he, as he was going, teaching you how to build your own suits and to eventually get ready for your first run. So while the 4 of you have never been outside, you've been outside of your zone, but only on the barest sense, right around the borders of it. You've never really been into the burnt in depth as a runner. Dog has obviously been in and out from pockets of scrubs here and there.
I think
But
if you say that dog, like real dogs, he and his father kind of existed by skirting around the outskirts,
yeah, exactly.
feeding
Yeah.
off the refuse of a safe zone.
Sounds good. So yeah, you and this is going to basically be your first real job. This is going to be what gets you, if you make it, and if you complete the job, and if you survive, will get you your licenseship into becoming kind of an official runner. And now there are runners out there who, you know, just like a regular person, you know, you can kind of, anyone can build a suit if you have the ability and the in the scrap, and anyone can grab a package and run, but there are certain people who are actually licensed to do it, and so that's what you're hoping to become. So Paulson, as the what was it? His call sign, his name is the Steel Armadillo, or just the Dillo, as he likes to be, as he's shortened it. He is, as I said, kind of an older guy. What hair he has left has been totally grayed out. You know, he has a long beard, but it's super patchy in areas. Like a third of it doesn't even grow in anymore. Completely bald, but not by choice. One of his eyes is clouded over. He's actually completely missing his left arm. And he's had to rejigger his suit so that it's actually a prosthetic arm in the suit that it attaches into, so that he can control it that way. But this is one of the main reasons why they start runners off so young. He's taken a lot of radiation damage over the years, and it's kind of taken its toll, and he thinks that if he continues it, he's not going to last much longer. So now he's going to pass that damage off to you guys.
Yay.
So speaking of you guys, let's see who we have. So we're going to go around the horn here. John, who you got? Who you playing? What are they running in?
All right, I'll be playing Alex Watson. He is a runner in training. He's got dark skin, kind of weathered, like he's been out in the sun too much. Obviously, the world is shit. He's got short military style haircut. He's about 5'9", 165 pounds, 25 years old. As we have sort of a sliding apocalyptic vision here, I had that he was a teenager, looking forward to everything ahead of him when the bombs began to fall. Obviously, everything changed, lost everybody that he knew except for his younger brother, Jack. He is a risk taker, and he has which is one of his life shapers, and his other life shaper is his brother, Jack, which he would do anything for. He is a mechanic, and he also messes with demolitions. So we'll see what happens.
Nice. And what's the suit that Alex is running in?
Alex's suit is WSO4 TK421. It's a codename the Trooper.
Nice. And just to break it down too, we'll go in. So there's basically two different types. You can obviously create a whole gambit of different types of suits, but runners everyone likes to categorize each other, and runners basically categorize themselves into two sides. You either have the rads, which are build themselves to go fast. They're most of the time lightly armored, shielded just enough. Their carrying capacity isn't the greatest, but it's mostly small important packages or stuff to just get in and out. They also do a lot of survey missions and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we also have the zeros. Zeros are slow, cumbersome, well armored, well shielded, and can usually carry a ton. But kind of sacrifices of that is, they go slow. So it's kind of a trade-off one way or the other oftentimes. But like I said, there's usually, there's the whole kind of in between as well. But most of the time you kind of pocket yourself one or the other. So where do you think that that Alex would fit in, that the trooper would go?
He'd be more of a rad. His speed's 5. He could do 480 blocks an hour. So he's a little bit more of a speedster.
Not bad. All right. Kevin, what do we have?
So I am playing Malone. He's tall, skinny, pale with freckles. So if he looks like that, his hair is going to have to be red and curly. So that kind of fits in. He's 24 years old. Before it all went the way it did, he worked in a university library, and for John, we'll call it a library. Gets that jersey. And so he worked in a university library, and the way he kind of internalized what happened in the shock of what happened in the world, he now has a compulsion that he has to go and save anything that's written down. And that kind of feeds into his life shapers of gathering up everything from the past that has to be saved. And the reason for that is we can't leave anything behind because we're going to have to collect all the knowledge we can to rebuild. So that compulsion to kind of, books, anything like that. I guess in this world, I'm assuming a lot of stuff that was saved, not as a hard copy, but online, probably a lot of that's gone now. So, anything that's written down probably is kind of worth saving. So now Mal kind of has that obsession of having to find all that and save it because we need to pass it down. And his suit is the model is, he calls it the alphabet, and his call sign is Omega.
Nice.
And so there's a bit of alpha and omega there. And the suit itself, I was a bit surprised because I thought I was going to be a rat also. My speed is 5 and 300. But looking at it, so my presence is a +5, so he's not very and the size is 12. So I'm trying to work out how he's a real tall, skinny guy, but he has a big suit, but he can still run fast. So
yeah.
The suit itself, I think I tried to go more with stuff to be a bit faster. But I also have a cargo pack and a chainsaw. So maybe he just has that
protected.
Yeah. So maybe he has that underlying strength that makes him be able to carry that and run. Maybe that's why he's skinny. Maybe he's meant to be a bit bigger, but he's worked it all out with carrying that all around. And the cargo pack was just extra in case he does find stuff. He has it always in his mind. I'm going to find everything I can that's written down and save it. So, he made sure he built that cargo pack onto the suit because he never wants to be stuck out there and not being able to bring something back.
Nice. All right. Todd, who do we have here?
Dog is a 10-year-old kid with a crazy mop of blonde hair, and you can picture the little blonde kid from I think it was the second Mad Max movie. Kind of a feral child, raised in the burnt by a father whose brain was not fully functional. So Dog doesn't speak a whole lot. He doesn't trust a whole lot of people. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that Dog is sitting next to Paulson, and Dog sits on the ground like a dog. Sometimes scratches the back of his head with his foot. I'm twisting little bits of colored wire because I like making jewelry out of it. I braid it into my hair and I trade it for like bits of food and stuff because I kind of like to always have something I'm kind of fiddling with or nosing about with. So I'm sitting at Paulson's feet. Now, I'm going to say Paulson's the one who found me out in the burnt. He noticed that I had a talent because I was hard to catch. But he finally, after a number of runs, he got me to come close enough to take some food from him. Dog really does behave a lot like a dog. And he eventually trusted Paulson enough to sort of come to heel. Now, Paulson is taking him on because he recognizes him as having talent, and the kid already had a bunch of gear. I don't know if you would really consider it a suit. It's just a bunch of random parts that were found at different times in different places. My father used to hit me sometimes, so I want to be a good dog because you have to prove you have a right to exist. Like, bad dogs get put down. That's a life shaper for me. I really am a dog, and I want to be a good dog. Paulson gives me food, and he treats me well, and he talks to me nice. I don't trust many people. I don't trust women at all. I won't go near a woman. I don't understand them as creatures. I don't even know what they are. But I'm ready to do whatever Paulson wants to do, and I don't actually call him master. But I think of him a lot like a dog probably thinks of his master. This is the one that took me in, feeds me, and trained me to be a good dog.
Yeah. Yeah, and he probably doesn't look at you like that either. You know, he doesn't look at you like a dog, but...
No, I'm a 10-year-old boy with serious mental problems.
Exactly, yeah. All right. So what is dog running in, at least for today?
It's definitely a rad suit. I'm super fast. 7 blocks per minute, 420 per hour. And I'm pretty well armored, armor +3. But I'm presence is +4, so my suit is kind of clunky and loud. Even though I'm graceful, it's not a great suit. I got a torso-mounted thrust mouse, boost thruster, comm set, which I rarely use because I don't speak a lot, but my dad slapped it on my head one day. Geiger counter, a couple flares, a rucksack. I don't have a big carrying capacity. I'm like a scavenger, a barely surviving scavenger, basically. So I've got like bits that me and my dad found at different times, and he slapped it on me and said, take care of that. You do this with it. I don't really think of myself as a runner. I'm just a dog, and all the stuff that first it was my dad, but now it's Paulson. They tell me why I need this thing. I like, no education at all. So my education is just completely verbal, superstitious, full of like, you don't need to understand it, just do it.
Right. And you probably don't have the comm to talk, but to take orders.
True. I do have a shield. I've got I don't get in a lot of fights. I prefer to run away. But I do have a knife, and I have a shield that's like welded on my left arm. Yep. And that's pretty much it. I'm small, fast. I make a little bit of noise.
Oh, so you're a 10-year-old. All right. And John, I forgot to ask, what is your presence?
My presence is, I believe, 3. Presence nice. 3, armor 1, shield 3, speed 5.
All right. Yeah. So for everybody listening to, presence is basically how loud your suit is, like how much attention you will grab. It modifies your stealth, survival, anything like that. Your movement, if you're trying to kind of be subversive through an area, or not. But it basically it alters how hard or easy you are to see and hear. All right, Kurt, let's jump down to you.
Okay, so I am playing Nitro. He is a 15-year-old boy that doesn't really trust anybody. Anytime he's done anything out in this world. People have died all around him, so he's also an orphan. Even friends of his that he thought were friends have died. So basically, he is at the point now where he's just like, I'm just in it to try to be the fastest runner, just like these other guys. His life savers are no one can catch me. So basically, like all my friends and family have been caught and killed. So I want to be the one that's not. My other life shippers, you better keep up, and no one better slow me down. And because he's kind of a 15-year-old, he's got a lot of feelings inside that are mostly anger and frustration. And even though his life shapers he wants to be the fastest, he's not. He's also tinkered around. He's like a shorter. He's probably about like 4'2", 4'3", a little chubbier. He likes to mess with like, he likes to tinker with explosives and like gasoline, if like things that are like that. I mean, I know stuff like that is scarce, but he's got kind of like wiry black hair, and one time he was messing with something he shouldn't have, and it exploded in his face. And the right side of his head is has a big hole, like a patch, like his skin is burnt, and all of his hair is missing. And anytime anybody says anything about it, or even tries to, like, some people have tried to touch it, he will start a fight. He will punch them or start a fight or whatever, because he's shamed by it, and he doesn't want anybody to pay attention to it, even though it's very out there. His the model that he's running in is called the RAD F15. He's a real big fan of things from the before times, and the fact he loves the fact that RAD and rad back in the before times means awesome, so he wants to be awesome. And then he also,
I was going to say, that's such a teenage boy name for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And he's also heard about F-15 planes from the before times too, so he wants to be his own version of that. So that's Nitro in a nutshell.
Nice. Does he have like a paint job on his suit that kind of harkens back to like the fighter pilot? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, he's got like one of those symbols that kind of represents like the world today, but it's not like a star with some lines on the side or whatever. It's just it's more of like, maybe it's like a kind of like his like weird version of like what when people walk into a zone with radiation, it's got like a radiation symbol. It's got like his handwriting with that, but then it's also got like flames around it too, that kind of thing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Nitro, you've noticed that the last like couple nights, or maybe a couple of weeks even, like when you're playing with explosives and making things burn and watching how they burn and shit like that, that dog kid, he always comes as close as he can when he thinks you don't see him. He's fascinated by you and what you do.
Yeah, and I'm always swatting him away like a mangy dog, like a kid with a mangy dog. Like, get away! I don't need you right now. So he's always like, he always knows dogs there, but he's always just like, he waits until he gets about as close as he can, and then he'll like either shoo him away or he'll like slap at him just to like piss him off.
I was going to build a character that was focusing on demolitions too. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because this team could have been.
It's going to blow shit up. It's going to
go. I would imagine Nitro hangs around with Alex a little bit, because he's got the demo stuff too. Hey, you got anything left? Is there anything left? You got anything I can play with?
Well, actually, I don't think Nitro would do that.
Any blast caps?
I think Nitro would actually try to steal from Alex, because he's just like, I don't want to ask you. I would just take it. Yeah. Nitro's not a very nice boy.
Constantly going through Alex's locker.
Yeah, exactly. And not being like stealth about it at all.
Right. just leaves it
that's
wide
another
open.
reason Dog thinks Nitro is cool, because he just takes what he wants.
Yep. So a couple of questions. So first, spec wise, what's the Rad's speed and presence?
His speed is a 5, I think. Yes,
five? Look at
speed
that.
is
All right.
5. Presence is 4, so he's a little more there for people to see, even though he doesn't want that either.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, you're all along the same. So everybody is actually running a 5 except for Dog and the little helper right now. He's just a tad bit faster than everybody else.
Yeah, in fact, maybe that was one of the things that impressed Paulson, was this little fucker was fast.
Right. Yeah. So the other question that I had for you, for Nitro, was the people that that had died around you. Did you know any people, potential runners, people who had gone out into the burnt and just not returned, or is it because of the chaos of the zone that you live in? Is it like crime? Is it murder? Is it radiation?
I'm gonna say it's literally everything. He's
Yeah.
experienced in his short life way too many things for a kid of his age.
Yeah.
So that's why his attitude is very like, why should I even bother with conversing or even being nice to everybody, because they're gonna be gone tomorrow anyway. So what does it matter?
Nice. All right. I'll get into real quick. So if anybody knows anything about what I've done in the past or conversations we have, I like tables. And so I've created a few tables in order to generate both null zones and burnt areas. And so while we were talking, I rolled up one of each. So first I'll get into the null zone that the four of you currently find yourselves in. So you live in a rather large null zone called Saison. It is out in the prairies. So you have nice kind of flat grassy areas. That kind of grassland still dominates this area. So the buildings and everything are kind of a little bit more spread out than normal. You have a decent amount of space to play with. There's a pretty good safe area that Saison has built up upon. That being said, though, the area is the people that live in here and everything aren't the greatest. I'm not going to call this the most civilized area. So the people who run Saison, it's an inherited council, basically almost like a group monarchy. Families that have kind of passed down the power to their kids or to cousins or whatever have you. And because of that, all like kind of the power and the wealth and has been focused into this small group of people. So while the laws within Saison are fairly civil, it's basic. They don't really care too much about what happens and everything, as long as you don't steal from important people and as long as you don't hurt important people. You can pretty much do whatever you'd like. Because most of the rep and most of the wealth and technology is condensed around this small group, the border surrounding Saison is also pretty primitive. There's some signs up. Every once in a while, there's a guardrail or some basic fencing. But there's really nothing keeping people from going in and out. And there's no, walls, nothing like that of any significance. In fact, most of the time, unless you have a Geiger counter on you, the only time that you're kind of trailing away from Saison is the grasslands start to wither and eventually go into this kind of just dead, desolate area outside the boundaries. Now, I'm imagining that's probably where, like, where Dog likes to play in the previous. He'll play right in kind of that brown area between life and death. And Nitro and Alex probably like to go, blow shit up just on the outside where, they don't have to worry too much about people hearing or paying attention to them at all.
My dad found a thing he called a suburb. And I don't know what a suburb is, but it's a place where the houses are kind of big and kind of nice. And that's where I got all the wires in this bracelet right here.
Yeah, there you go.
So I know that out there, if you go far enough, there are other suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
and
place
in fact,
you want to go. That's
right.
like the best time of my life was when my dad found that suburb.
And speaking of suburbs, the area that that the nearest burnt is used to be, Mal, you've probably found maps and books and things like that. Some local tourist guides about the city that once was, and Dog, you've probably picked up, here and there little bits of metal, of name tags or little labels on tourist destinations.
Oh yeah, I saved stuff like that. I have a little
yeah.
collection of stuff. I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to make something one day. I don't know what.
Yep. So yeah, the city that used to be here was actually a large sprawling metropolis called Braxton. At this point now, it's been reduced to just a large, almost thick, sludgy area. You know that there's and Paulson warned you ahead of time, and he's talked to you about it, and you've seen him come back from runs where he is just covered almost chest down in this thick grayish black. It doesn't look quite like mud. It almost looks like old oil when it's just going to congealed and become almost the near solid. And the whole area is just not quite made up of this, but pockmarked with these large pits of this almost like semi-Newtonian liquid. The buildings that used to be here weren't incredibly large. It was somewhat low scale, but there's still a decent amount to have to deal with when going in and out of there. So today is finally the day when Paulson wakes you up nice and early. You all kind of have this small area of the shop that he has, cots and beds and hammocks set up for the four of you to sleep in. And he walks in just with a wrench and a piece of sheet metal, and he just starts banging it to wake you up. And goes, all right, everybody come on in.
I'm assuming Dog scuttles away as soon as he hears the noise, and
I run straight to Paulson's feet, basically. I mean, I don't always run on all fours, but I do when I first wake up in the morning. I scramble out of bed and I'm like on all fours over to his feet, and then I remember that he's told me to stand. Like he's always telling me to stand up, boy. So then I remember to stand.
Yeah, and he actually, when you run over, he kind of like tussles your hair, kind of like what you would do with either a dog or a child with long hair. He kind of tussles, and then he kind of like grabs you gently by the back of the neck and like whispers down. He's like, "Stand up, boy. Come on."
Alex like just about falls out of the fucking bed.
I was gonna say
He was kind of like, you know, sort of like stretched, but sort of like on the edge of the bed. And when he starts hammering on the fucking thing, he just like jerks and his leg hits, you know, falls to the ground. And he's like, hey, fuck, what? You could just come in and say, wake up, fuck.
No, what kind of start to a runner's morning would that be?
A quieter one, Jesus.
And Nitro does what like any like really young boy that's just doesn't want to ever get up does, and like screams really high pitched and kind of hits his, I'm guessing we slipping like cots or some kind of makeshift thing, and he just like hits it really hard with his hand, and he's just like, I don't want to get up, that kind of thing.
That's fine. You don't have to get up, but you're gonna end up missing your chance to get your license. If you want to stand by and blow some shit up, that's all fine by me. And you know, that just means I have one more hand in the garage.
What? Fine, whatever you say, Dillo.
All right, now everybody, one last time, go over. I want you to inspect your suits. You check out, make sure everything is up to function. And once you do, we'll meet me back over at the chow table, and we'll go over what your job's going to be.
How long do we have?
And he holds up. He's not wearing a watch, but he looks up his wrist. He goes, "I'll give you 5 minutes because I'm feeling generous."
Fine. Like he pulls on a pair of pants and, you know, like puts his shoes on, trundles out over to where the
he sees you like sit down on your bed, and he like you're like starting to pull your pants on, and he's like, "Oh, 4 minutes now."
He just shakes his head and he just like grumbling out the door to go out to the suit.
Yeah.
So we're just checking our suits, right? We're not putting them on because I'm assuming if he wants us to come eat, we're not going to be wearing the suits when we go.
Yeah,
eat.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So Mal's going to go over. He'll follow Alex out, and he just has a piece of paper, and it's almost like a checklist. So he goes over to his suit and almost just checks each part of it, and kind of writes on a dirty piece of paper, checking everything off.
Nitro kind of like does the thing where he like, it's like takes everything in his being to like get himself to like even try to get upright. So he just kind of like swings himself out of his bed, and he's just kind of like that kind of thing. And he's kind of has his head down. He's kind of walking to the front of the exit or whatever. And he just gets not super close, but close enough to Dog. And he goes, "Oh," and then he walks out of the door.
Dog smiles at that. He thinks he just said hello in a way that was kind of like maybe friendly rivalry, and that means that you accept me as an equal, which I actually didn't expect. So I startle for a moment, and then I smile. Dog doesn't understand the science of how any of the shit in his suit works. So in order to gear up, I actually go through the ritual of literally putting it all on, and then checking all the notches and marks and looking that the thing is the right color, and that's the right color, and this is matching that one. And so I'm literally all geared up before I know everything's working.
Paul's saying to you, he sees you start to like put everything on, and he's like, "No, boy, you got."
I can do it real fast, though. I can do it real fast.
He's like, all right. One of these days we'll go over this again. And I imagine he tries to like he's tried to teach you several times about like what everything means, and
keeps using big words,
right? It's almost like it's like Warhammer 40K almost. Like you have no idea. It's magic as far as you're concerned. Like you have no idea how it works or why it works, but it works when you do this. So.
Well, yeah, I actually at that notch right there, I engraved that. It took me hours because I got beat when I set that one wrong.
Right, yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you can't teach a young dog new tricks. So go on.
You just won the game, and we can all go home.
Hey,
Yep.
I did it.
All right. Night, everyone.
Alex looks over to Mal with this checklist. He's, like takes his glasses up, and he's like going through all this thing. He goes over and he like yanks on the arm. He pokes a couple of buttons. He
Kicks the tires.
he checks the straps on the rucksack. Like, he knows that it's as long as nobody fucked with it, it should be in pretty good order. So like he gives it a quick once over, just kind of by like poking and yanking and kicking at stuff. I mean, he's a mechanic. Like he works on the suit, right? So like he knows what's up.
Yeah.
So maybe Mal takes a little bit longer because he's writing everything down, and also maybe mentally he's also just eyeing up everyone else's suit, because I'm assuming like John said, I'm sure you don't mess with other people's suits, right? Because it's the thing that keeps you alive and keeps you going and keeps you being able to do something. But he'll do like a mental checklist. He'll look at he'll give a once over to everyone else's suits just to make sure they all look like everything looks like it's all right. So he won't like write it all down like he does with his, but he'll just do like a once over of all the rest of them. Because like you said, Mal needs to know things and remember things, but he'll just.
I imagine you like standing off to the distance, like just a little bit, like looking over everyone's shoulders, like, okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, well, he'll try to make sure it's not obvious, right? Because it's,
right.
Don't touch my car kind of thing. But he'll write his all down and he'll do a checklist, but then he'll just once over everyone else's when he's walking back out to go get chow.
Yeah.
Okay. So
all right. So
okay. Because the answer for me is yes, and I think it probably is for everyone. Everybody have a comm set of some kind.
Yep, I do.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So real quick, I would like everybody to give me a brains check, modified by if you have mechanics or anything like that, except dog. I would like you to give me a psyche check.
What's our DL? Or is this graduated? Or
let's go with a 4.
Okay, I got a 7.
Nice.
Jesse, does it have anything to do with piloting?
No, it does not.
Okay, then I will not use that then.
Damn right you won't.
This is to give your suit a basic once over.
Okay.
5.
I got a 4.
I got a 5. I don't think I have any mods, so it's just a 5.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we got 3 yes ands and 2 yeses, 1 yes and a yes but. So with Dog and Mal, who got the 5s, right? So you're looking over your suits. Everything looks fine. Mal, all of your straps look secure. All of the wiring looks hooked up properly. Everything looks like your joints are well oiled. Everything looks like it's everything's fitting together well. Dog, all of the symbols and etches that you have made have lined up perfectly. I know you probably, when you put everything on, it's like you have like a circle here. So when that circle is complete, that's when you know everything's lined up properly. So yeah, everything you're looking over, everything seems to be to fit together just well.
So Mal will look over when Dog's checking out his suit, and I guess he can tell from Dog's face that Dog's happy, that he feels everything looks all right. And Mal will just give Dog like a thumbs up because he's looked over Dog's suit too.
Right.
Yeah, and Mel, if you just watch me for a minute, it's quite clear that I don't actually know what these individual items do. Like when I snap the Geiger counter into place, I don't look at the indicator light to see if it's on. I look at the notch on my arm to make sure that that's connected, lined up with that other thing.
Exactly.
Right.
I've got a mole right here. When that thing goes to the mole.
Yeah.
Alex, you're the same. Everything seems to be copacetic and working order. And what do you have?
How about this? So yes, and I'm able to. I figured out a way that I could carry both my mechanics pro kit and demolitions pro kit, but it doesn't take up any extra space. Right, so
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like lashed with some leather cording or whatever, like around the outside, so it's kind of low. It's kind of like
Mhm.
a wrench set that's sort of wrapped up so that it's quiet, right? Like it's not like a toolbox. It's like,
Right,
I
yeah.
need, 2 different screwdrivers and like a set of wrenches and whatever I need to like fix my suit. So like it's all
Mhm.
bundled up and just sort of attached on the outside securely.
Sounds good. Yeah, so that's actually a problem that you've kind of been trying to solve for the last week or so. And as you're going over your suit, you're finally like, wait a minute, if I move this strap around and I can combine these two and this flap goes over here, and if I just kind of cinch this plate in this way instead of this other way. Yeah, and it all kind of seems to fit together quite nicely.
Sweet.
Meanwhile, so Nitro, you're going over your suit. Everything looks fine as far as you're concerned. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna grab that butt and I'm gonna kind of put it in my pocket for a little bit later.
Don't you dare leave my butt alone, okay? Actually, can I say one thing? Even though you can,
Yeah, sure.
Can you keep yours? But can I say mine?
Yeah, what you got?
So I'm gonna say that the only things that he's gonna check are things that will make him fast. So he's gonna look at his twin tubes. He's gonna look at his carbon filter. And that's the only things he's gonna check. He's not even gonna check the rest of it. And and I'll put another little butt in it, even though I know, again, you're the GM. So if you want to mark it,
go ahead.
Say no, that's fine. We'll say that Mal doesn't even see it.
Right, yeah.
There's something that I didn't check that he will also miss.
Yep. All right. Nice. So,
Kurt's the kind of player who puts the kick me sign on his own back.
Right, yeah.
Right.
He doesn't even put it on the back. He puts it right on his stomach, just above his jump.
She's going to be right on the chassis, right on the top here.
Right. Yeah. So you guys, after 3 minutes, Paulson yells out from the kitchen. All right, 5 minutes. Everybody, get in here.
I'm there. I'm good.
So, yeah, he's already. Yep. You're like, go.
Yeah.
Still in your suit.
Oh yeah.
I make sure everything's locked up, for as much as like the suit can be, sort of manipulated or whatever. And yeah, head over.
Nice. All right. So yeah, Paulson has some nice hearty stew set up for you. It's a nice breakfast stew. It's you see him. This is what he eats every morning before he goes out on a run. And so it's kind of that initiation for you. He never lets you eat it. This is his stew. This is what he cooks and what he eats every morning before he goes out on a run. And screw the rest of you. You can have the leftover bread and chicken that you had the night before. But he's actually made you stew, and this is with beef, which is actually super rare around here. There's only a handful of cows because cows take up a ton of room. So he managed to get a cow about a year ago, and he cut it up himself and has frozen it, and so he eats like little chunks here and there. So he's now sharing it with the 4 of you.
So Alex sees the soup, and he kind of looks around and he says, "So if we make it through this, we get the recipe."
Damn it, Joe! You beat me to.
Oh,
That's fine. No, this works out good. So yeah, as soon as Alex says recipe, Mal pulls out a piece of paper and a pencil, and and looks over to Paulson and says, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We got to make sure, if we make it back, we got to make sure we carry on the tradition."
Hey, you know what? If you make it back alive, I'll teach you how to cook it, and you can make it from now on. How's that sound?
All right, that works.
Sounds like extra work. I guess we can split it up. As soon as you said that, John, I'm like, I'm gonna get the recipe.
So he leans into Mal. He's like, yeah, but then we get to eat the beef. You don't get that
Yeah,
shit
but
every day.
Well, it depends on how much beef's lying around. We may have to improvise if we can't get a hold of beef. We'll have to try some other different proteins for that.
Yeah, it's all the same, right?
We can put some extra flavoring in. I'm sure we'll mimic the taste.
Nitro just like is really shoveling it into his body, and he's like, and he like almost kind of spits it out a little bit as he's talking. He's like, this is what you've been holding back the whole time, and he's eating it, but he's also looking like he's disgusted by it, but he's still like shoveling it in like he's never had it. Well, he actually never had it before.
Yeah.
Like he's never had food before.
Nice. So yeah, while the four of you are kind of digging in, Paulson takes out from off a shelf these four small kind of almost like hard jello like cubes, and you've seen them as these are holographic storage devices or HSDs, and this is what runners primarily use to store data that interfaces with the suits. And so he takes four of them and places them on the counter on the table for you. He goes, this is gonna contain all of the info that you need. Actually, you know what? I'll say he takes three of them. He holds dogs, and he takes the arm of the Dillo of his suit, places it into a receptacle, and a hologram projection pops up of the burnt area of Braxton. And so you see a little dot that is Saison, and he kind of zooms in a little bit and says, all right, about 250 or so blocks. This is your destination. There's a important package that a client would like me to retrieve, and passing it on to four of you. So not entirely sure what it is. No questions. Don't bother. But you get in, you get that, you get out, you get your license.
So does it show like an object? Because my first thought is, if we don't know what we're getting, then what are we doing? Like what?
So it doesn't. It literally it's almost like an X marks the spot.
Wait.
So
you want us to like go to this place and just grab something at random and come back?
Nope. Client said that you'll know what it is when you see it.
I don't.
Okay,
Is that normal?
Welcome to being a runner.
Okay. All right.
I've got survival burnt, and I've got streetwise. Either of those tell me anything about the area of the map that he's pointing at?
Sure, yeah. Why don't you go ahead and give me a survival roll? Beat a let's call it a 5.
It's a 5 plus 1 is 6.
Oh, there we go. That's a yes. So yeah, you are familiar with this area. We'll even say you probably Dog hasn't really traveled out much beyond, the into the harsh burnt area. But he's at least seen this part off in the distance. It's a rather large medical industrial site. and it's one of the few kind of taller buildings that breaks the horizon in Braxton.
Okay, and when you say industrial, do you mean like factories?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so Dog thinks of these as machine buildings. There's machine buildings and there's house buildings.
Mm.
And this is a place where there's a lot of machine buildings.
Yes.
And my dad said there's always a lot of really good stuff in those places.
Mm-hmm.
So does Dog tell us that, or does he keep that to himself?
Dog kind of looks pretty excited, and he whispers something to Paulson. And what he says is, that's a machine building place, isn't it?
And kind of Paulson gets a little smirk on his face. You can tell only about 3/4 of his mouth actually works, but the side that does work is the side that smirks. And he goes, "Yeah, that's right, boy. Yeah, you're gonna find if you get lucky, you're gonna find a lot of goodies in there. But just make sure that you make it out with at least that one."
So Mao's going to be sitting at the table. He'll put the cube, like holding down a piece of paper, and he'll just be writing on the paper, kind of staring at the cube, not like he's getting anything out of it. And then we'll hold off because Mao does have med tech, but we'll play that out after. So if Dog just says, machine building kind of thing, and if Paulson doesn't say anything, oh yeah, if he doesn't say medical facility or anything, then Mao will just be writing down a bit, and then hopefully I can make some rolls after we get to the building.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Do we so we grab this thing, assuming we've got enough room for other stuff, we can grab whatever.
Grab whatever you want. And it's yours.
All right. How do we set up ours for that stuff? I mean, if it's something that we can use, then we'll use it. But if it's something that maybe somebody wants, is there? How do we get some rep for that?
There's always someone that wants something. Don't worry. Yeah, I got a bunch of contacts. I got a bunch of buyers. I'll get you set up.
Dog is holding up a little bracelet made of like 3 different colors of wire that have all been twisted together in an intricate little pattern. He's just kind of silently showing it to you as proof. You can make these. People give me stuff for these.
Alex gives you a thumbs up. Maybe we could find some more wire in that in those buildings out there for you.
You can tell by the look on Dog's face that's already what he was thinking. Because in those
machine buildings, yeah.
In those machine buildings, that's where you find all the colors.
And tell you what, too, they have a lot of metal in there that when you scrub it up real nice, it gets real shiny.
Yeah, this shield right here is something. I don't know what HVAC is, but this used to be a HVAC something.
I was reading. So when we say shield, we mean like a proper shield. We're not talking like.
Yeah, it's
a
roughly circular piece of sheet metal welded to my left arm.
I was thinking too advanced.
There's two different things. There's the shielding of your suit, and then there's a shield. Yeah,
gotcha.
which ironically actually gives an armor bonus. So you have
words.
Right.
I was thinking too technical, right? I was just like, oh, shielding. There's no ing on the end. That's where I got caught up.
All right. So at that point, Paulson will tell you, it's like, all right, so why don't you go ahead and finish up eating, get your bellies nice and full. Make sure you hit the shitter before you leave, though. Don't want to be running around with that just in case. Your suit only recycles so much.
It's not a still suit then.
Yeah.
You just hear like a
Dog is nodding his head like, like that's true. That's true. I
Is,
know from experience.
then why don't you go ahead get prepped for the run and we'll get you going.
So the HSDs, they plug into our suit, you said, right?
They do, yes.
And that gives us all the information, location, all that kind of stuff, path.
It gives you,
direction.
yeah. So it gives you a basic map of what you need.
Okay.
Insofar as if you looked at like an overland world map of a video game, you know how it would tell you like, hey, this is a city and this is where you need to go, and it kind of like draws almost like straight lines from here to there. There's no real detail to it. It just kind of gives you an extreme generalization of where you are, where you need to go, and perhaps the potential of of dangers or benefits along the
so
way.
it's not like a GPS, but it just gives you a rundown.
Exactly. Yeah.
You need to go here. Once you get to this fork in the road, go left. If you see that tree, go right. That kind of thing. It does
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. So Mal will go back. He'll finish up eating. He'll go back, and I guess Paulson said to go start getting ready. So Mal will go walk back to his suit. He'll plug in the HSD. And does this pop up? We can see that while we're going, right? So it's something that's like almost like an HU we can see in our suit.
So yeah, so I doubt any of you have advanced tech right now to have a HUD, but you probably have some kind of readout on your system.
Okay.
Whether or not it's whether it's a holo projection, whether or not it's just an LCD or an LED screen on your suit, you probably have some type of interface.
Okay. So Mal will plug the HSD into a suit. He's going to start putting a suit on slowly. He's not going to go rush, but he's going to put the HSD in, and then when it comes up, we'll say it's like a LCD, not printout but display, and he'll kind of quickly draw a rough outline of what the HSD is telling them. And if anyone else is around, or even if no one's around, he'll just mumble to himself. Batteries run out, but paper doesn't. So now it's just covering himself that if something does happen to that display, he'll have that. He'll have a hard copy of that. So that's what he'll be doing while he's putting his suit on.
Sounds good. All right. So at this point, we are going to get into a couple of things. So the first part is basically prepping for the run. All right. Well, actually, you know what? The first thing that we'll do is the planning section.
I think the first thing is pooping, isn't it? I mean, I was told.
Well, yeah. All right. The first thing you do is poop. Yeah,
I'm pooping right now.
So there's a few things that runners usually do before a job. The first thing is to you need to know where you're going and what you're getting into, right? You need to know general hazards or benefits of the area, what the radiation or the gray level is, and just general knowledge of what's happening in the area. So the way that we deal with that is planning. So in planning, there's usually a few questions that you want to ask that you want answered. So the first is how long you're going to be in the burnt. Then do you have enough power? Will you be safe inside of the burnt? And can you carry what you need to carry?
We don't know what it is, so how the fuck are we supposed to know?
Exactly. So you answer as many questions as you possibly can. So first things first, how long are you going to be in the burnt? So Paulson said, and from what you can tell on your map, you have about 250 blocks that you need to travel.
One way or in and out?
One way.
One way. Yep.
Yep. So you're going to look at 500 total blocks. So from your speed, your lowest speed, you're all about average as we went over before. Your lowest speed is 300, and that is blocks per hour. So you know that you, barring any unforeseen circumstances, you're going to be spending at least 2 hours in the burn, right? Because it's going to basically take you an hour to get in and an hour to get out, generally speaking.
How many blocks did he say again?
250.
250.
Yep. So Dog could theoretically make it there and back in a little over an hour, but it would require him leaving the rest of the group behind. Mm-hmm. So that is a decision that you would have to make, if that's even something that he thinks about.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So the next thing is if you have enough power. So your suit's power rating, you know that you're going to be spending about 2 hours at least in the burnt. So you just need to make sure that your hourly power usage, which is going to be that total power rating, multiplied by 2, because you're going to be in there for 2 hours, does not exceed the total power generation of your reactor.
My reactor's 80, so I'm good.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, you basically take your total power usage, multiply it by 2, and that's how much power you are going to use. That your base usage on this run. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so as long as you're underneath, you're good to go. Side note, anything you have left over, that is your reserve power. So let's use Alex as an example. So Alex, what's the trooper's power usage?
5. So it would
5.
be
all right.
Theoretically 10 for this trip.
10, yep. And so you, in theory, you have 70 power reserve because you're running a reactor that can generate up to 80 power. Yep. So a 70 reserve is super cool. But this is a fairly short run. 250 blocks is almost nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So second question that we have to, so we answered, how long is it going to be? Do you have enough power? Next, will you be safe inside the zone? So with this, you want to basically check how much shielding you have against how much radiation or like base level radiation is in this burnt. So right now, we don't know that base level of radiation. That's going to come in the next part that we have. So just make sure that you keep in mind your shielding level, because that is what you're going to compare. Last thing is going to be, can you carry it all? And as John pointed out, you don't know what you're carrying. So that's something that you'd have to think about. All right. Any questions about that part?
Nope. Later.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
all right. So this basically, and you can imagine this kind of, almost as like the Ocean's 11 style scene of the session, where the four of you are kind of sitting around a table, or checking, or like in with your suits, kind of like running the numbers, running the math. Everyone else is, Alex and Nitro are on there, or actually like in their like, you don't even necessarily have to be in your suit to deal with the LCD readout, but you're kind of like checking with that, making sure. Mal is doing actual like math on a piece of paper, which is fucking weird. And Dog
has a complicated system where you count with your fingers that far apart, and every fifth one you put a notch.
Right, yep. Actually, like drawing in the dirt and like in the dust of the garage.
Yeah, I'm like looking at the counter on my arm, and then I count that many notches, and then I look at the other counter. Yeah, if that one's higher than that one, then I'm okay.
Yep. All right, so yeah, you guys are kind of going over all that. Next is now the part where you gather intel on the run. So in order to accomplish this, we're basically going to go around the horn again. Each runner can gather at least one piece of intel. You can gather more under certain circumstances, but you have to pay for that additional intel. That's basically just like a game mechanic-y type thing to balance it all out.
Is this like a little downtime-y?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like downtime before the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But because all of you have 0 wealth right now, you can't actually pay for more intel. However, you can go into theoretical debt to gain
things.
Exactly. You can promise that, if somebody needs a favor, if you're like, hey, where are you going in the burnt? I need this thing. Like, or, okay, but you owe me a favor in the future. Like I'm expecting to get this run at a discount next time I need it. So you can do that kind of stuff if you want. You can also do that. So gathering intel is normally a hard difficulty, a DL5. You can lower that difficulty either with skills, or you can similar aspect owe people favors. So that's all kind of stuff that you can do in order to balance that out. For this moment, we're basically just going to stick to one piece of intel each, but you can go ahead and negotiate people to lower that DL if you want. So we'll go around, and the first thing we'll hit is Alex. So go ahead and tell us kind of what kind of intel you are looking to get and who you think might be a good source of that information.
He would be looking to see whether or not there were any like people or creatures, right? Or they're organics in the area that we're going to, whether or not there's X's out there, whether or not there's, bandits, whether or not there's, mutated feral dogs, like what's our tactical situation like?
All right. And who do you think would be a good source of information for this?
There's an old guy, his name is Chick, and he's just like, he's been around forever. Like nobody knows where he came from. He's just some old dude. He's got no family. But he just seems to know like everything. Like, hey, Chick, what's, what happened with, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, I'll be telling you the thing happened and that thing happened. Like, nobody knows if it's true or not, but like, he's just always got information.
Right. Yeah. So you track Chick down, and he's he's got his own. We talked about kind of suburbs earlier. If Saison existed, when it existed prior to the war, it was probably a suburb. And he, Chick is knowledgeable enough and he's lived long enough. He's not a runner himself, but he knows a lot of runners and he trades with a lot of them. So he's a very personable kind of guy. So he's able to get information out of people without them actually realizing that they're giving them info. So he uses that to sell for rep quite often. So he has his own little kind of split level house, and it's furnished pretty decently. He's done a lot of work on it, or rather he's paid other people to do a lot of work on it. And so you catch him kind of sitting out on the porch on a rocking chair, kind of just like glancing out at the people going by. He's that kind of guy. He's that kind of people watcher.
Is there anything, to briefly touch back on the world building Todd was talking about earlier? What's our situation? Like, do we have like regular food? Like, I'm just wondering if there's anything like I could sort of bring to him, to neighborly come in and sit on the porch and walk up with a bottle of beer or some bathtub gin or
I mean, so Saison is as we said, somewhat primitive in its technology, but that's primitive of the day. You still have like hollow cubes for storage, and there's still decent technology around, and that does benefit you in some ways. Of there's still obviously there's going to be distillation. People need alcohol, and there's farms and things. So there's chicken and pork and all that kind of stuff as well. So you're not lacking for resources necessarily. There's a decent base living situation at least.
Okay, so he comes up with a couple of cold bottles of beer, and comes up on a porch. Say, Chick, how's it going? And comes up, sits down, offers him a bottle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, how you doing, Alex? How's Paulson doing?
He's doing pretty. Hey, we got a stew this morning. We're gonna be heading out in a little bit.
Oh no way! Paulson shared a stew with you?
Yeah, it's gonna be our first run.
Oh, I've tried to get that recipe out of him. It's one of the few secrets I haven't been able to get out of anybody out of Saison.
Yeah, no, he's been pretty tight-lipped about the whole thing. I told him, I said, when we get back, we get the recipe, right? And he kind of played it off a little bit. He told us we could make it, but who knows if he'll actually give it to us.
Oh, no way. He's actually said that he's going to share that recipe with you?
Yeah, that's what he says.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
It was pretty tasty, too. He had that cow a while back.
Yeah, I heard. He did that cost him quite a bit of hefty rep, I heard.
Yeah. I mean, those things aren't cheap.
No, not at all. He got one of the 4 cows that was up for slaughter that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he's been parceling out a little bit at a time. He's the only one who's usually eating it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that Paulson, that greedy sumbitch, he likes to keep some of that for himself, huh?
Yeah.
He's like, but what brings you to my porch there, Alex? What can I do for you?
Well, so we're gonna be heading out to Braxton. I was wondering if you happen to know anything about that area. If there's any X's out there, any bandits, you see if there's anything we should be, stuff we should be looking for. Or do you need anything?
He gets a little twinkle in his eye, and he goes, "Oh, I see what brings you around here. I see."
Well, I just the company. We're having a conversation.
I get it. You got a little bit of a taste of the stew. You're looking around. You're about to go out on your first job now, aren't you?
Yeah.
There you go. Paulson's been holding y'all back. I think you would have been ready for that job a while ago. I think he's kind of calling you a little bit, but yeah, good on you. Good on you.
We're just excited to get out there. I mean, like first one. It's not too far, so that's good.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah. I know a little one or two things about Braxton there.
Lay it on me. What do you got?
Yeah, well, it depends. What do you got? I hear I got.
He offers him another bottle of beer, or he puts the slides the 6-pack over to him.
Yep. Yeah, I hear. You say that when you get back, Paulson's going to be. Paulson said that he'd let you cook him up some of that stew.
I mean, that's what he says.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a little something if you when you come back. You kind of tip me off as what he's doing in there. I hear there's a couple of people who have smelled it, and they suspect that he's got some kind of spice or something that he's maybe been hiding away all this while.
Yeah, it was a little savory. It was good. It was real tasty.
Yeah. So tell you what, I'll give you a little bit of info that might help you out if when you come back, he shares that with you. You kind of hand it off with me.
Like he looks around conspiratorially and he's like, "Yeah, why not? I mean, it's good. I mean, I can't say that I can get you any of the beef, but I mean,
no, I can get myself that. It's that. I know there's something in there, and I need to know.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a deal. As long as I make it back, right?
He kind of gives you like a little bit of a wink on that one. Yeah. All right. Why don't you go ahead and give me a what would it be? Why can't I remember?
Brains.
Charm. That's it. Yeah. So give me a charm roll. Beat a DL 4.
Do I get a bonus for? Well, I guess I haven't actually given him the stew.
No. Well, no. What you get is it dropping down from a DL 5 to a DL 4 because you have promised him the stew. Yeah.
Yep. Because you said 5. Oh, I got a 6. 6.
Nice. Oh, that's a yes and right there.
No skills to modify, just straight 6.
Nope. Yep. Just straight. Yep. So yeah, he kind of leans you in close. He says, "All right, I'll tell you what. There's been recent sightings of a couple of bands of Sabers that have been sneaking around in the area, looking for some extra territory, getting a little greedy there. I don't know, maybe the X's in that area have kind of started to play it safe, and they don't have as much prey to hunt. But yeah, you might want to watch yourself out there a little bit. Be a little bit extra careful."
Oh, I appreciate that. That's a good thing to know.
And so what I'll do, so there's the Red Sabers are basically a mutated cat species. Nobody's quite sure exactly how it started. Could have been like tigers or cougars or something in a local zoo that had begun to procreate. Could be just regular house cats. Nobody really knows, but they've mutated into these now large feral cats that actually have almost plating like an armadillo or something that runs up their backs and kind of along their sides a little bit.
How big? Because tiger and house cat are two completely different sizes.
No, yeah, they're large. So they're about the size of like a mountain lion.
Okay. All right. So
they're a
150,
good
200
size.
pounds. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What would the size rating be on something like that?
I mean, if we were going like D&D aspect, it would probably be like a medium creature.
Well, no. Like size as far as like suit, like.
Oh, as far as like bringing one back.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah. Probably counted at like a 3.
Okay.
oh,
I was thinking
he's thinking like a good carnivore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, if we're gonna be making some stew, we gotta have some meat, right?
I hear you. I hear you.
That red saber stew is the delicacy.
Right.
Actually, I didn't bother doing a scene back when we were eating the stew, but dog only ate the meat. That's all.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Then eat the
I have
gravy?
risk taker, right? So like,
Mhm.
if we could snag one of these things and bring it back, dead,
There you go.
of course. But yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Nice.
Just thinking.
Yep.
Oh yeah, man.
All right.
That's great. I mean, yeah, thanks for letting me know. That's coming really handy.
No problem. I mean, you get back safe there. I get that recipe. Everything works out fine and dandy, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
All right. You be safe and don't let none of them sabers get to you, and don't let Paulson kind of hold you back. You go out there. You do your thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's we get out there, we get a run under our belt, it'll be good. After that, it'll all open up for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's old as shit, right? He's all retired. You saw half of his face. So yeah, I mean, it'll be good.
Yeah, and he kind of looks at you like he knows something, but then he goes, "I know you get going. You got a lot of prepping to do."
Can I make an insight check?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right.
It's gonna be. Let's go with a DL4 though. This is gonna be kind of.
I'm gonna. Would it be psyche or brains? I mean.
Let's go psyche.
Okay.
You're not. You don't have like training or anything like that. Right. So you're. Yeah.
Did he catch it? Nope. I got a pair.
You're going off instinct.
Yeah. Pair of 3s.
Yeah. So I mean, you got kind of a hint at the look that he gave you, but you kind of brush it off as you've known Chick for a while now. So you could pass it off as him kind of showing a little bit of a worry to you or something like that. So
he's thinking like, oh, I shouldn't have said that shit about his face.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, hope he doesn't tell him that.
Yeah, exactly. And now you kind of got that back in your mind of like, oh fuck, did I just fuck all this up? God damn it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Alex is now worrying about if he just kind of broke his contact with Chick or not. And let's go over to Mal. Mal, what do you got? What are you trying to figure out, and who do you think you'll go to for it?
I was thinking, or Mal was thinking, it's kind of general about what we're going off to get. But we do know kind of it's like a big industrial kind of building. So he's also thinking if he doesn't find any, books or texts or anything to bring back, he's got some extra space. So he's going to see if there's a connection he has on someone who either is on the council or is like related to someone on the council, and just say, hey, we're going out on a run. This is the area we're going to. Do you know if anybody's put in any requests or for anything that they want brought back to that area? Or do they know some interesting things in that area we could bring back to either to sell for rep, or if someone has, an outstanding ask for kind of thing? I'm not, this isn't like going into business on the side or whatever. It's just that more, hey, Paulson's sending us on a run. This is where we're going.
That's smart.
If we can bring some more stuff back, do Paulson's run and also bring some other stuff that'll help us, and it'll
Yep.
maybe be a good sending off for Paulson. We can
Right.
get him an extra retirement watch or something, on the way out
Nice.
the door. Kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, instead of grabbing just like random junk, actually
Exactly.
go in with something in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll say that the husband of the second cousin of one of the council members
Okay.
who has an insanely their place within the government is so tangential that you could literally pull them out and nothing, like no one would know if they went on vacation for a month. It wouldn't make a difference. But they still know enough of what's going around. So yeah, we'll say it's Jacobson. Jacobson McAndrews.
Okay.
And so yeah, you know where his office is, and you kind of catch him every once in a while. So you actually catch him kind of like on his break, sitting outside eating a sandwich.
Okay. So I'll go sit down to him and say, hey, McAndrews, Paulson has us going out on a run today. It's to and then what did Doug say? The machine building, right? Yeah, that's what he said. So I guess I can intuit from that it's either industrial or factory if it's a machine building.
Right, yeah.
So I'll tell McAndrews, we're heading out on a run. We didn't get too many details on what Paulson's sending us out for. But we've got 4 of us going. I've got a bit of extra space. Have you heard anything? Anybody said anything, any words about needing anything in Braxton that may be around this area? And I'll, pull out the piece of paper with the rough map I drew. And just say, is anything outstanding? We can bring some stuff back. If we've got some room, maybe strike off some other outstanding requests that people have. Paulson's on his way out, so maybe if we get a bit of extra rep for him out the door, or send him off with something nice.
And he kind of puts his sandwich down on the table and reaches over to a satchel and pulls out a little tablet. It says, let me see what we got. All right, and he kind of brings up and goes, okay, I mean, we got a few things, I guess, some kind of semi-official things that you might be able to get. I mean, nothing too big, honestly.
Sounds good. I think we've got 4 of us going. Obviously, if it's just one request, I think that Paulson's sending us out for. So I think we're supposed to just pick up one thing. So we should have enough space if there's anything we can bring back extra.
All right, so he'll start going. Let me see. Why don't you go ahead and give me a brains check and beat a DL5.
I've got academics, appraisal, and med tech. Can I add any of those?
Yeah, why not? You can go ahead and throw on some appraisal with that. Either appraisal or med tech will work, actually.
Okay. 5.
All right. Well, it's a yes, but not bad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's kind of scrolling through, and you see kind of over his shoulder that there's a pretty decent request for parts for coolant equipment for refrigeration.
Okay. So these are the parts, not the actual coolant itself, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What could be? I'll let you do the but. So I'll tell McAndrews. I'll look at it, and then I'll kind of laugh to myself and remember that Dog said HVAC when he was talking about a shield. And when he says put refrigeration coolant, so it's the HVAC, and he'll kind of giggle a bit and say, "Yeah, this seems like we should be able to fit this in. If it's some different parts, we may be able to divvy it up between all of us." But yeah, we'll definitely keep our eyes out when we go out there. What's the back end of this coming back?
Yeah, so Jacobson, when you kind of like give that little laugh, because like that, it triggers in your mind. You see like the refrigeration units and the HVAC triggers in your brain, and you're like, that's kind of fun. And like he looks over his shoulder and sees that you're looking over his shoulder at his tablet, and he immediately like swipes 3 fingers down to lock the screen. And he goes, "Whoa, this is government material. Like you can't just look at this."
Now, I'll throw my hands up and just say, "Hey, I was caught up in my own thing. I was remembering something funny that happened with Paulson before I headed out. I didn't even notice what you were saying. You said something about refrigeration coolant, and
No. Okay. No. These are jobs for licensed runners. Okay. I know for a fact that you don't have your registration yet. Okay. So you know what? I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to finish eating my sandwich. I'm going to pretend that you were not here and that you did not see this. That way I will not have to turn you in. Okay? Because if I have to turn you in, I cannot promise that Paulson will also not get his license revoked. Okay? So how about the two of us just kind of keep this on the hush hush. Okay? You tell me you don't tell anybody you saw this, and I won't tell anybody that you looked at it.
Really sorry about that. Wasn't meaning to cause any trouble. I was trying to, send my my mentor off in a proper way. You've got my word. I won't say anything. Sorry to have bothered you, and I'll turn around and walk away. And I will mentally note refrigeration coolant and pull out the piece of paper and make sure I put a little note next to it. If we see anything, save this for later after I get my license. Yep. After we get our license.
And he goes back to eating his peanut butter and fluff sandwich.
Fluffer nutter.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Damn.
All right.
I grasped and then it just went away.
Right. Dog. I am very interested to see where Dog will go for information. You're muted.
Thank you. I don't really think I have to go far at all. Because awareness and streetwise, I don't know which way you want to go with this, but I have a +1 in both of them, and they're both based on psyche. So either way, it's 3 dice +1. Yep. I feel like I noticed something on that map before Paulson put it away that he didn't say out loud. I think maybe is that awareness streetwise? Does either one of those work for you?
No, you know what? I would let's go with awareness. Because he in theory gave you the same information that you that he was showing you, right? But we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and give me an awareness DL5.
Where'd my third die go? Damn it! Oh, there it is. It's a 3 + 1, 4. Nope.
That's a yeah. No but.
That's
Yeah.
a no but.
Yeah, no but. Yeah. So yeah, you're kind of looking over it, and you become kind of I'm not necessarily obsessed, but you want it. You're looking. You think he gave you the HSD, so you're like, okay, well, it must be something you thought triggered in your mind, so you're kind of going over that. But what do you think might
Do I get to say the but?
Yeah, I'll give you the but.
Right on the other side of this place on the map, just like maybe 20 or 30 blocks further, I'm pretty sure I recognize that suburb my dad took me to, and I'm gonna go there.
Nice. So yeah, you don't glean any further information from the map, but you do.
And of
know,
course,
like
I have
you said,
no
you
idea if I'm
notice
right
that.
or wrong, but I am
Right.
convinced.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. Yeah. I saw a street name, and I think it's the same street name that I remember.
Mm-hmm. All right. Nitro.
Okay, so Nitro really doesn't have any friends, but Nitro does have but Nitro does have someone that he hangs out with called Matchstrike. Matchstrike is actually a son of his mom is a runner, but his dad is also works in the radiation business. Usually when him and Matchstrike hang out, it's just them trying to find some way to blow something up or burn something up. So they get together, and when they're not beating the shit out of each other like kids do. He's about the other kid's 16 and a half, so he's a little bit older than he is. And they're always trying to figure out ways of kind of I don't know, just trying to be dumb kids, but also Nitro in the back of his head is trying to find a way to kind of make things to kind of be faster or whatever. But this time I wrote for his survival skill. I actually wrote as his what would you call it, like subset of that, because you said once you pick a survival, you have to kind of pick what the survival, what it's about. So I picked for him like danger perception, because of everyone dying around him, he's very even though he's very just go go go, he also tries to pick up danger where he goes. So he's actually going to try to talk to Matchstrike and see if his dad has been to Braxton, and he wants to know what the radiation situation is there.
Nice. Yeah.
I was
hoping
someone was going to ask. We all came up with other things to ask. Except
so yeah, the two of you are just kind of fucking around, like lighting off small fireworks and anything that you can find. And so you kind of bring it up casually, like, do you drop the fact that you're going on a run, or are you just kind of dropping it like you're interested in the area? God,
what would he do? I think he would drop about about the run, because he just just like some young kids, they want to even if they're not friends with somebody, they want to be like, well, I'm doing this, that kind of thing. And that's it. That's exactly what Nitro is like. He's like, I'm going on a run, and I'm going to Braxton, and I've heard that it's kind of a dump of an area or whatever. So I'm sure like radiation is just through the roof. You know, he's just trying to kind of goad Matt Strike into giving him a little bit something. Maybe he heard something his dad said or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes, you know, no, I mean, yeah, I mean, my mom has been kind of like in and out of there quite a bit. You know, she's pretty, she knows a lot about Braxton. Yeah, she's been to Braxton a ton. Like, it's no, she does it all the time. You should see her folder on it. She's got tons of info on it.
So instead of like trying to go straight for the information, he's gonna instead like ask him like, oh, your mom's suit, like she's been through a lot or whatever, so like so what's her like, is it her suit just gnarly, or you know, is she like, you know, like is she just in and out or whatever? Like he's trying to like get the information, like if she's been in there so many times or whatever, if there's a lot of radiation, obviously she's gonna feel the effects of it, and you know there's gonna be a lot of scoring on the tech itself. So
right, yeah. So he's like, you know, yeah, her suit's like super awesome. She makes most of it herself, but like my dad also helps a bunch because like that's what he does. So yeah, and he actually like takes you into the garage in order to look at the suit. He's like, all right, but you better fucking shut up. You better not tell my mom that I'm showing you this.
And he's like, of course. And he does the whole crossing his fingers behind his back thing.
Yeah. So yeah, he takes you in. It's basically like a small, if you think of, you know, if you live in like a condo complex, how they have like storage garages for the people as well. So it's basically that. It's like a line of garages, and he takes you to one, and he kind of walks over to like a touchpad and like hides it with his hand, and he's like, "Don't fucking look." And he like types the pad in, and like you hear the beep. The door he opens up the door to take you into the to where they store the suit. And goes, yeah, this is it. This is my mom's suit. She calls it the Red Mantis.
And he's actually like in awe of the suit, but he's like playing it off like, yeah, I guess this is okay.
Yeah,
like,
and it's actually a pretty high-end suit too. Like she must have spent a decent amount of rep on this thing. And you know, the reason she calls it the Red Mantis is it actually has these two plasma swords that come out, or vibro swords that like come out from the side of the forearm that like come down into almost hooks that look like the praying mantis arms. And the whole thing has this like blood red paint job all over it.
Yeah, and of course, again, outside he's just like, yeah, I'm sure, but like inside, like he's freaking out. He's like,
right.
He's like, you know, he's processing like 100 ways of like, okay, I could take this, I could take that, you know, this, like, he's like, oh, obviously she knows what she's doing, but like I could totally, you know, take this and that kind of thing.
Right. All right. Why don't you go ahead then and give me a survival check,
Okay.
DL5.
Okay.
See what kind of information you can glean from the suit.
Okay. So I'm gonna use brains for that one.
Sounds good.
Assuming. And what was the DL? I'm sorry.
5.
5. Okay. That is a 6.
Nice. So yeah, you're looking it over and you see let's see here. So yeah, she actually has a decent filtration system on this thing, and she's running with some diamond mesh plating over the whole thing. So her shielding rating on this suit is decent enough that it's you can tell that if she as a rad, because you can also tell she has a really nice thruster set up on this thing and everything. If her as a rad is running with this kind of shielding, then it must be a decent level of radiation. And I'll actually say you're kind of looking through it all, and you can see on a basically like a TV in the next to the setup of all of the exterior sensor information of her last handful of runs. And judging by what's been going on, the average baseline radiation in Braxton is about 6 grays.
Okay. So he kind of looks at that and his eyes get kind of wide, like, you know, holy shit, you know, kind of thing. And he is just like and he kind of breaks a little bit, and he's like, wow, Matt Strike, your mom's got some amazing tech.
Yeah, she does.
I mean, how do you not like take any of this and just use it for your own? And he's like looking at her God, what am I thinking of? Looking at her good Lord. Her what did you say that she uses for propulsion or whatever?
Yeah, she actually has both maneuver thrusters and also a booster set up on that.
Okay.
So so she not only can it just has general thrust to get her to move faster, but when she really wants to, she can kick this thing into overdrive. So
yeah. So yeah, he's just like I can't believe you haven't like stolen this tech, or like why can't you make something like this? And he punches him in the arm.
Hey, I mean, no, you can't. I bet I could. They just you know, I just don't. They don't need me to yet. And he again like punches you in the chest.
And so like as the scene kind of ends, they like end up like falling out of the area that the suit is in, and they're like just wrestling each other and kind of, you know, beating each other up or whatever.
Right. Nice. All right. So yeah, we'll go over just as a mechanic standpoint. So Nitro unlocked the the level of radiation that is in Braxton. So radiation is measured in grays, which is an actual thing I found out. And so what you do with the radiation level is you compare that to your shielding. If your shielding is equal to or higher the radiation level, then your suit wins. You take no radiation damage on a regular basis, barring any outside or inconvenient circumstances. However, as we've kind of alluded to with Paulson, most runners take at least a little bit of radiation damage on every run. So what our runners are going to do once they regroup, and Nitro, you know, if he shares this information or not, but you know, there's really nothing you can do about it at this point because you already built your suits. You're going to exactly. So you're basically going to take your shielding rating, compare that to the radiation level in grays, and that is how much radiation damage you are going to take on an hourly basis.
Ouch.
So let's go ahead. We'll use let's see. Nitro said ouch. Kurt, you said ouch. So what is the Rad F-15's shielding rating.
It's only a 4, so I'm
It's
going to
a
be
4.
taking
There you
2
go.
damage every hour, which is great.
That's great.
That's all right. I'm going to take 3.
Ooh.
Nice.
I'll be taking 2 per hour.
Really?
And maybe I don't need that.
I'm the only
can-do
one not taking it.
reactor.
I got 6 shield. I'm the
There
only
you
one not
go.
taking
Look at
damage.
that. Yep.
I could probably
Actually,
swap
yeah,
a couple
built
things
my suit.
around.
I built my suit for speed. Shielding was not a huge concern. I picked it up when I could for free.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
I did. You spent this because you spent a little bit extra on that. I think you spent a little bit extra on your whatchamacallit, on your shielding itself than everybody else did. So, because I think you ended up going with what, the CMF. So
I got CMF. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Yeah. So
I don't
so
remember
we'll see
now, but
how.
I think it was because I didn't like the cost or the negative associated with the other options.
Yeah. Exactly.
In other words, I think I took it.
There's
I took it
yeah.
for a negative reason.
Right. Yeah. So at this point in time, you have all gathered a little bit of intel, whether beneficial or not. We'll see once you actually get out on the run. And yeah. So what we will do, I think, so we're time-wise, we're about 2 hours in terms of gameplay. Plus, I know Kurt, you have to, this is kind of running up to your Cinderella moment at this point. Plus, also, I think for me, this is a good break point because we've done all the pre-run stuff. We've kind of done the character intro, we've gathered intel, we've done all this kind of stuff, and now the next step in running is doing the actual run. So when we get back together next time, we'll actually have the 4 of you heading out into the burnt and seeing if you can complete the job that Paulson has given you in order for you to get your license to become official runners.
I mean, if I make it back, I'll be dead from radiation, but sure.
We'll go into radiation damage later. Don't worry. You'll
get some
be fine. I'm
mutations. Just get some mutations.
Right, yeah.
Good.
Or lose an arm. Who knows?
Get some tentacles or something. It'll be cool.
Right?
You get explosive proof skin.
Yeah,
right.
You become even more dangerous.
I think I died from radiation more in Fallout, so I'm kind of used to it. So
See, there we go. Perfect.
Nice. All right, cool. So we'll wrap this up then. So we have coffee for sale. If you use the code Legends10, you'll get 10% off your order. Shipping is always free. Coffee is roasted by our own GM Neil. Birds is a small batch craft coffee roaster. So he's picking out really good beans. He orders in relatively small batches, but it's roasted fresh. It's roasted to order. It's shipped out as fresh as can be to you. So you get the best cup of coffee that you could get. It's what I keep in my house. It's what I drink. It's all news. But if you like coffee, please check that out. A little bit of the legendary brew money comes back to the show. There's a link in the show notes, or you can go to tinyurl.com/legendary brew. Runners is not available yet, but there's a link in the show notes for all of the other core products that are available. So please check those out. We have a Patreon up. You could throw money at us or not. It's fine. If you like core things, if you like stuff that we're doing on the show, I prefer that you support Todd. Throw money at Todd instead. Todd is the creator of the core system. So we are playing a lot of core games. Please do that. Ratings and reviews on iTunes. Yeah, you guys know the whole thing. It's like a broken record. But thanks for checking it out. Thanks for watching and listening and all the things. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
post show.
Oh no!
So now I know we have a So
Post show.
There it is.
$8 shirt, pal.
That's hilarious.
I was listening the whole time.
Oh, that's cool.
God,
That's,
I
my camera is way up
apologize.
there, so it's like a 3D movie when I do this. There it is.
Todd, I apologize for stomping on you earlier, but we were gonna get way. I felt like we were gonna get way far afield, and I just wanted to rein everything back into like.
Yeah,
let's play
I
test
dig
some
that.
mechanic
It's
stuff.
cool because now I'm waiting for the post show to address that. And so,
Yeah.
if I
And I
may,
don't disagree, right? Like if
I
especially
think
if we were
that-
going to do this as a campaign, a session 0 would have been the way to start.
more I'll see you and raise you one. I think, Jesse, you might want to think about providing either bullet lists or you love tables for allowing people to do a really quick session 0
Yeah.
in like half an hour. So you leave it open as far as world building is concerned. I like doing those lists where it's like you choose. I like to provide die rolls, but if you read my instructions, most of the time in Day Trippers, I say roll or choose.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
And if the group sees an option that they really like and nobody blocks it, then just fucking choose that one and go for it.
Yeah.
But you give them enough of a structure to suggest world building real quick. Like, I don't need detail, and I'm glad that John derailed that conversation. But it would be nice if we had pre-established a simple means of brainstorming real quick. And I think on 1 or 2 pages, you could probably provide that. You don't even have to. You don't even have to put dice in there if you don't want to think about the odds too much. Just a bunch of suggestive words with bullet points. That's what Vincent Baker does, right? He just does lists of cool words. And you fucking figure what did I mean by transgressive? This environment looks transgressive. No, you figure it out when you get there.
Well, I mean, I did that. Let's with the burnt generation.
Yeah.
Like I took that kind of example. So let's see. So like the surrounding. So I did like the surrounding area of the burnt. So what could it be? Like I have things like wet, smooth, rocky, sludgy, lush. Like it's like general descriptions of what area might be like. And so yeah, I can definitely see like taking that and being like, all right, take these tables, figure out kind of what the world is like or was like and exactly what part this plays in it. Yeah.
Or roll dice and just take whatever you get.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think if we're gonna do this again, like as a mini campaign, if we're planning on playing 6 or 8 sessions or something like that, then we should definitely do that. What's our little null zone like?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are there animals? Is there housing? Are we living in tents? And like, and again, I kind of feel bad for being like, don't worry about that. We're playing a game now. Because we should have that information, but. And maybe this is my fault. From my thought in thinking tonight to play was like, okay, let's play test mechanically. Like, how does all the stuff work? Does the sheet work?
Yeah,
that was kind of my mindset coming in. And I know.
Well, I mean, and with that, so. Runners
ultimately, we all know that the GM has the authority. If anyone can just step in without even having to justify it and say something is so, the GM can be the one to do that. But that's totally up to the GM whether they want to do that.
Yeah. So with
I think this system compared to the other ones, I think the environmental setup plays a bit more into that, right? Having that,
well, it does. I mean, the question I was trying to get an answer to at the outset was not like details about the world, but really just sort of a loose grasp of whether the area I was raised in, my PC was raised in, is a small thing in a big thing, or
Right.
whether it's the big part of, and the null zone is the small. And I didn't really know.
There you go. Yeah. In general, what I kind of try to get one of the issues with kind of like the intro portion of runners is my initial idea was that there were small pockets of radiation and the runners were the people who went through that, right, to get from point A to point B. But John, very astutely pointed out, it's like, why not just fucking go around it then? And I'm like, that's a really good point. Like, it's pointless.
Right.
So that at that point, John made the suggestion, well, flip it. So make the null zones the tiny pockets, in the dangerous area everything else. So yeah,
I think that was exactly right.
Exactly. So null zones in general are like small pockets of safety in a larger dangerous area. But I think what you were alluding to as well is like,
I promised you an edit, and I'm still kind of in the middle of it.
Oh,
but
no,
one of the notes I have in my edit is that you had written somewhere that these zones, the burn, can be miles across, and my note in the margin is hundreds of.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So, and because that's one of the things that kind of happened is some of that flavor text stuff didn't get changed yet.
Okay.
Like stuff that I've just kind of looked over, we and me and John talk about this all the time, where you kind of get blind after reading the same thing over and over again. You get blind to the details, or like to those overall generalizations, and you just don't focus on those anymore.
Because if you wrote it,
true,
exactly.
But let me bounce off. I mean, there's something that I said in the Discord. I do kind of like the ambiguity, because let's say we run runners a few times, and we want to do something a little different, and one of us has a crazy idea, like, okay, we're like Oklahoma, whatever state is in the middle of the United States, we're the last state standing against the zombie invasion.
Right.
We're going to use runners tech because everything out there is zombie world.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. You could totally use runners for that. It'd be a really weird campaign setting, but it could be lots of fun. So, just an example, because I think that you should leave it as open as you possibly can. That way the GM and the players get to do lots of different shit with it. But it's helpful, especially at the beginning of the campaign, to give the GM either tables they can use or share with the group some mechanism. And maybe that mechanism is just democracy. You raise your hand, you said it first, it's true now. Or maybe it's turn-based or point-based, or there's a thing I did at the back of Day Trippers. You could do something like that. Like the GM has a couple drama points and the players have a few drama points as a pool. And when it's your turn to say what an obstacle is, you just say what it is.
Yeah.
It could be gamified. Or, again, really simple. I think probably for runners, and because you like tables, I think that choose or roll and then give them a whole list of shit.
Right.
And a series of lists so that you get different combinations out of different lists. Now you have to figure out this noun with that adjective.
Right. Yeah.
Ideas no one thought of.
Yeah.
I will say in the broadest of terms, the thing that runners reminds me the most of is red markets. The Caleb put together, Caleb Stokes.
Yeah.
Because you have kind of a similar setup where it's not the same. It's similar, again, very broad strokes. You've got civilized society east of the Mississippi. Everything else is fucking zombie territory. You have these enclaves, spread out through the zombie area. So you have your null zones in between all the burnt. And you're, going out on missions to grab gear. And I'm not making qualitative comparison, but it reminds me of that. And I'm not saying to use that necessarily, but beg, borrow, and steal to create, right? Like, I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes. So I think that may be something to look at. I mean, and that's like a monster, it's like a 500 fucking page book. But some of those elements I think would be transmissible to kind of
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Or-
I mean,
or
that's,
help you
you know,
focus, right? You might be able to pick some stuff out, like John
Yeah.
said. You read, not read the whole friggin' thing, but there might be something the way
Well,
that
just
it's
for
done in
yourself,
that.
make your little Apex K.
Hmm.
Right? Think of all the movies and books that you might draw something from.
Yeah.
And when I first started reading Runners, actually before I read it, when you were just talking about it, the picture I got in my head was I was picturing Runners as rugged individualists who may or may not be mercenaries, but were basically in it for themselves against a harsh world and had the balls to do the job no one else did. But as it developed, and I don't have a lot of the media references that John knows and other games. I'm not really so attuned to what else is out there. So for me, I flashed on The Postman, Kevin Costner.
Yes.
movie.
Yeah. Yep.
And as you went on developing it, and I started realizing, oh, there are places where it's actually civilization kind of still working.
Yeah.
It started feeling more like The Postman to me.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big range between like your individualist, smart, rugged, mercenary loner, like a Mad Max,
Yeah.
right? Who just figures out his own way to solve the problem of body armor and radiation shielding and does what needs done because he's a lone hero or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the way over on the other side, you have the Postman, where there's whole towns where people still salute the American flag and trying to make civilization work again.
Yep.
And that's a pretty broad range. And I think that you should allow the runner's GM to cover anything in that. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So bringing in some of my influences, I am going to bring in 2 Kevin Costner movies, Postman, and then the exact opposite of that, Waterworld.
I love Waterworld so much.
Waterworld breaks in. It's that sparse here and there. Everything else is desolate
Right.
and dangerous. And he is a solo, rugged guy who has done it by himself. And yeah, so Postman was kind of back in the mind influence. Waterworld, Mad Max was another where you get these, and if you go back through all of the Mad Max movies, right, you get both these concepts where you have the rugged individual who does it by themselves, but you also have groups. If you go back to the first, I can't remember what the name of it was. It wasn't Mad Max, but what happened? What was the movie right before that?
The Road Warrior.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a group of people who they work together and they do what they need to. So yeah, definitely like the same world can span that whole kind of situation to the point where you can have, this could my idea for runners was you could have a one-on-one game where it is one runner and the GM going through scenarios. Or they could also, as you could have a family that does it, kind of similar to what you guys are. You've pretty much raised together and run together. You could have runners that just team up every once in a while. So you could have, so if you're running a solo adventure, but like, hey, like Timmy can play tonight. So yeah, sure, create a runner. We can run together for this job. So my hope was that it can suit all those needs and desires. So,
and I think it can. And what we were lacking tonight was just an easy mechanism, whether it's provided by the rules or whether we made it up really quick ourselves, for generating some of the big questions surrounding the world building aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think one of the
we probably could have done that by email had any of us thought about it.
Thought about it, yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of my mindset too. Is as I said when we were talking about it, is I start small and work out big. So I start with, and even in the rules, I switch the way my brain works. So in the book, I have you create the burnt first, because that's where kind of the bulk of the mechanics are. So I have you create the burnt first and then the null zone second. But I always think of it as creating the null zone first, because that's where the center of importance starts, and then you work out from there. So I actually create the null zone first, then create the burnt around it. And gathering intel and all that kind of stuff is exactly how, like, filling in the details is gathering intel. Exactly what I did with you guys. So, like, I have you create the NPCs. I have you create the important sections of town, the buildings, and how everything like that works. I create the basic architecture. So, like, in rolling for the null zone, I know it's a large area. I know it's grassy, which means it's probably kind of spread out. I know it's an inherited council. I know that it has a civil law structure, and I know that it is primitive in its technology with a weak border. So I give you that information, and then I let you fill in all the nice little details. And so world building for me, unless I'm going in like with Monster Hunt, like the world I've been playing in for 15 years, I know what the world is already because we've created that before. But like going into a brand new campaign, like something like this, like start with the null zone, work out, and then we see, like, is the burnt just a small portion of a larger, fairly well-off society? Like, is it just like California or in this small area that was affected and you're living in the burnt and just that, but the rest of the United States is actually pretty well off. It's just that you guys are fucked and they were like, fuck you guys, we're not going to bother helping you. So like, or the whole world could be completely devastated. Like who knows? So, and that's something for me, like that would develop through gameplay, like as the sessions go on,
with
that's
the
stuff
village,
that
we would
to
all
figure out.
know a few NPCs and what their job was, and we would be able to do that. But in session 1, or maybe it's session 0, maybe you literally break it out and make a session of it, because you can gamify.
Right, yeah.
But really, I think because it's good, especially we're playing in core, because it's good to leave a lot of fruitful void out there. It's probably better to not consider it a session 0, but instead just have a list of things that you combine, or maybe in your gathering intel section, instead of simply saying you can make a roll for anything, list off 5 or 6 leading questions that the GM can use to prime the pump. Because again, there's always that problem when you ask a player to make something up. There's 2 problems, right? Part of it is the obvious, oh no, they're making me be creative on the spot, which I can do spontaneously, but that's not the same feeling as being put on the spot, right? So there's that. But there's also the fact that you've just jumped out of player mode into author mode abruptly.
Yeah.
But if the GM asks you a leading question, they're letting you answer from within player mode.
Yeah. And that's actually, so we haven't gotten there yet. During the run, that's actually kind of what happens with the Nexus points, is the leading questions, and you pick a specific question to ask and everything like that. So that'll be maybe mirroring that mechanic in the gathering intel phase could be good to kind of show you, like, okay, these are 2 parts of a job, right? And they both share similarities. So yeah, maybe we could do that.
Or maybe even just a little section, even if it's just a paragraph and an example of, how to set up, not the external, bullet points. Oh, there's a weak border. There's this sort of thing. How to create a nexus point, like character wise, like socially wise. Is it run down? Is it a suburb? Are they living in apartment buildings? Is it like some of that sort of stuff that you would naturally maybe do through play.
Into it. Yeah.
Other people may not be like, well, what is this and what am I supposed to do? Like, what is this world even supposed to be?
That's true. And I think that if you link both of what you're saying, like that Jesse was talking about this start, near, and expand, and what Don's talking about now, see, it's just as good players as it is to the GM. So again, the leading question, I always try to find something emotional that's easy to identify within the character I'm talking about, and then I can say, well, you're like this. And that implies that something in your past made you like this. And who was that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm within my character and I get to think within character and answer that question. But when I answer that question, I have to make it an NPC. And an NPC probably has a job. And that job probably implies a whole cottage industry or another level of society that just got made up. But it got made up from here and expanded, just like you're talking about, start, close, and expand. So you could view it like if idea space is a huge map, each of the players is a circle on the map, and you try to get them to think of ideas that expand and eventually connect. Because I say something about I was beaten by the guy who used to teach the kids. That implies there's something like an educational system here. And then when you ask John a different leading question, he can talk about his schooling because now we know there's an educational system here and we build on each other.
Yeah.
But neither one of us was thinking about the governmental superstructure when we answered your question.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if that can be part 2 of. So when I kept it pretty short, but I have plenty of blank space. In the character creation section, I added a little issue or a little part for life shapers and what we had been talking about of the leading questions of and I did certain questions for the setting that might lead to the potential of a life shaper creation. And so going into
so
that
you things you get life shapers that are tied to the world setting.
Yep. And then also potentially tied to each other as well.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
And between the notes that we took during the game and the notes I'm taking now, I have never taken this many notes during a session. So this is new for me for core. I'm not used to taking notes.
Well, the other thing I wanted to touch on, just like as post-show material.
Yep.
So you wanted me to create a 30-point suit or 50-point suit or whatever it was. And it took me forever, but I finally did it. And I really enjoyed the fiddliness of it. And I also found it extremely frustrating to try to maximize just the right. Well, if I add but if I take this back off because this one's free, but then I can add this, will give me some more. So even making a 5-point suit, which is even more, I have 5 points to spend to do this thing. It took me forever and I enjoyed it, even though it was, sort of that, maddening puzzly sort of thing. So how did you guys feel trying to make a suit and what?
I think that everything you just said is exactly true. And I think that proves that Jesse has done a good job of balancing options in the system, because it's just like that thing where you got 2 kids and there's like a piece of cake and they both want cake, and they're fighting because they know that someone's going to get a bigger piece, and you want to make sure the way you solve the problem is you have one of the kids cut and the other one choose,
right,
because now it's on them. There's a kind of a similar logic at play here, of just letting people decide, and it just makes sense.
Now, I mean, so it sucked because I went like max power because I figured, well, you don't want to run out of power, right?
Yep.
And you know, for this particular run, it's short, so like
Yeah.
fuck, I could have put like the cheapest ass thing in there and pumped up my shielding.
Yeah.
But right, like, but you don't ever really know. And if you're like
Yeah.
a 0 wealth starting runner and you have a 0 point suit, like you get what you get. And if that's the job, then that's the job, right?
I think, you know, it also shows, you know, character wise, it shows you what you put emphasis on, right? Like everybody else everybody else kind of went with the lower aspect in terms of power, but you were like, fuck no, I am not running out of power. Which, you know, in that you know, in a longer game, or if we weren't, I'm not necessarily trying to condense it, but you know, we kind of are. But that would be you know, probing content right there. Like, why'd you go with that? Like, like why do you have that system? Why are you so afraid of running out of power? Like, what's going on? So
Well, there was something I almost tweeted earlier today and then decided not to because it would lead to conversations I didn't have time for. But while putting together my suit, and I did kind of flash back, of course, to ship construction and day trippers, and I feel like I'm almost ready to just tweet this right out loud to the world. If a game is going to be crunchy, I like it in care gen or prep, and that preloads everything so that in runtime you just
exactly.
Right? I like crunch in prep. I think that's cool. I know that some players may not, but if the game's going to be crunchy, fuck man, let's tinker with our ship. Let's build our suit before we even play.
And that's exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted, you know, the fiddly bit that you were talking about too, John. And as you advance with your runner career, you'll gain more parts, more options as you go. So that would be something where you could be like, maybe you have 2 different power units and you're like, well, shit, this is only a 300 block run. Like, I'm going to go with the smaller one. That way I have more capacity for something else. Yeah. So, but you'll know, you know, that's something that you could potentially know ahead of time, or, you know, one of the reasons too, I was initially, concepting out with the character sheet of having half of it be character and half of it be suit. But then I decided ultimately to make it 2 different sheets so that you could create different iterations of the same suit and be like, okay, this is my low power build. This is my high power build.
If you
this
want
is
to
if
think
I'm running
grimly,
into a bunch of mutants. You're like,
if you play any campaign long enough, especially if you play D&D, somebody dies, and the other PCs will take their shit.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, you play long enough, you may have you inherited a suit. Somebody died wearing this suit, and you took the suit.
Yeah, you found a dead runner while you were out.
Yeah, wearing the same suit that you saw some other PC wearing in a previous game. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, I don't know if everybody does this, but I started with the character, and I decided to accentuate Grayson's psyche and kind of sacrifice almost everything else. Because he's an orphan who lives in the ruins, so he has to be fast and like almost psychically intuitive. And then when it came time to build a suit, I just accentuated what was already in character. So I see the suit as like amplifying what I had decided the character would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people do it different. You know, I amplified the traits that I was already amplifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I like about the suits too, is that you can go that way, which is the the handful that I've built, I've generated a few characters and attached suits to them, and I usually go that route as well. But I've found there's also a couple where I've been like, okay, well, I'm already kind of fast, so I'm not gonna really pay attention to the speed of the suit and everything like that. And instead, I'm going to focus more on shielding and capacity and all that kind of stuff to balance it out and to make up for the weaknesses that I have. So
Right. And another way you could think about it, this might be fun for a particularly flavored campaign where like corporations have fascistic totalitarian control over the null points or whatever. You could all be given state issued suits and they're identical. And then when you build the standard issue suit and you're thinking the most economical piece of shit you can stamp out hundreds of copies of.
Right. Yep. And at that point, then you could be into like a like a clone troop, like a Star Wars clone troopers situation, where they're all handed the same exact suit, but they live in this thing, and so they've all started they've all started customizing it to the way that they want. So yeah, initially they all had. So like long-term campaign, like you all have the same exact suit starting off, but like
cool.
As you start to play, you can start to alter it and change it into the way that you want.
Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, that was one. So I the way I picture, basically what we went down. There were three things I kind of wanted to cover in post. So one of them was building a suit, if that actually was good enough.
I think so.
Yeah.
I actually, when you said 5, I was no fucking way I'm going to get a useful suit out of 5, but I did.
The way you laid it out is the way to do it, right? Go that, then that, and that, because that's the first time I've ever seen that PDF when you sent. 0.6, and that's why when I emailed, was it yesterday, asking what the build was. So tonight was the first time I'd ever looked at it, and I was thinking this is going to take forever, and everybody's going to be pissed, because I'm going to be. But then it went and to Todd's point, it was did I want that to build into what my character is, or to offset, to enhance or offset. So yeah, I think it went really good. I was a bit stressed at dinner because I'm like, fuck, I gotta go do this suit, and I know it's because you look at it and it's all crunchy and you're thinking, but no, it was really, it went really, really good.
Oh, good. All right. So I mean, one of the things that I've kind of fought with too, are there enough options? And now I leave it in the book too. I say this isn't the limit. Right. So I have like a GM note in there of this isn't the limit. Like if there are things that you come up with, feel free to add them. I'm like, this is just kind of what I like, the basis of what I've thought up. But do you think that this is like someone reading this book over? Do you think that this is enough for them?
I think it gave me enough time to try to pick. So I think it wasn't like, okay, well, I've got two choices. And I think most people who've played a lot are going to say, well, I'm going to make up my own thing because it'll fit in better. But also leaving that note in saying, hey, this isn't the limit, will also prompt new players to say, okay, well, I'll think up something cool. So I didn't have a problem of saying, well, there's only, these are the only choices. I get to pick one of these crappy choices. I think each of them made you stop and think, okay, what's the best choice? So I didn't see any issue with the amount of options there.
Okay, good. Yeah, it was a balance. I'm trying to provide enough options without making it be overwhelming. Of you're just looking at like pages of lists, right? Yeah.
But I think the other thing
I think you've got a very good structure here. It's I feel like maybe by the time I reached the last table, the miscellaneous options kind of thing.
Yep.
It wasn't until I hit that table that I started like seriously having to go, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Fuck, what can I change now? Shit.
So that's good because that means I made it like, 80, 90% of the way through the process going,
Yep.
oh, this will be good. This will be good. This will be good. Oh, I want that. I
Mhm.
want that. I know what I want and I'm doing it. And then I get to this last table and I'm like, oh, shit, there's going to be a little sacrifice here, boys.
Yep.
Who gets to go? That's
Yeah.
perfect. There's like
Oh, good,
one
yeah.
decision at the end, right, where you have to go, oh, fuck, okay. Get rid of that. We'll take that down.
And I'd like to thank you for the PDF that added up the power and the size, because I was keeping track of it separately because on my screen where it was autofilling was cut off at the bottom. So I was adding that to the notepad. And then when I scrolled down, I saw that it pre-filled and I went, thank God, because I would have
Oh, there you
figured
go.
that up.
I made one too because it was so much easier to keep track, and I changed it a couple of times, but it was so much easier to keep track of components and size and speed and drain and all that kind of stuff than trying to do it on the sheet. And like just organizationally it was easier for me.
Yeah.
I mean, other people may be able to just sketch it out or do it on a piece of scrap paper or whatever. It's like building a character, right? You just grab a piece of paper and a pencil and start like adding a bunch of numbers, but there's a lot more fiddly bits to the suit. So
that's I definitely think I'm probably not going to add it into the book itself, but just like a separate character sheet and suit sheet, I'm probably going to also do like a graph, like a fillable, either both in PDF or if you want to print it out and write on it. Because honestly, I never like the suit sheet was more so just to keep track of what is already there. I never thought about providing something for the building process itself.
Yeah.
I feel like the sheet should also be the worksheet. You can make them one thing. The tricky part is that the relationship between chassis and reactor causes a circular relationship between power and size, right? So the chassis costs power and the reactor costs capacity. So you can't call either one of them the major factor, which is why I ended up structuring my table as a table within a table. And then I duplicated the chassis. I called it weight because you could just as easily say, well, why does the chassis cost power? Oh, well, because it has weight.
Yeah.
So instead of referring to the thing that the chassis costs as power, I simply regarded it as weight. You could put in one short sentence that says weight equals size.
Well,
weight equals size.
That's actually a good thing. Do you think
if you find a way to lay it up so that you can get it in 2 dimensions and it's dynamic, you could do it as a PDF, you could do it as a web page, you could put a link anywhere you go online, people could hit it. It's really easy to automate something like that. And then you take that and you simply, and I know you have more than much more artistic talent than anybody else here. But if you consider that a form like the invisible lines of the table, and then you design the page around it, borders, backgrounds, grayed out zones, whatever you want to do, it could look really fucking cool. And then it's a page, and it exactly duplicates the mechanical function. And if you have a PDF version, you can literally fill it in. If you have a printed out version, you have to write it by hand, but it's still, the math works by adding down each column, and it looks cool.
Yeah, I'll see if I can add that into, because I have that large section kind of in the middle of listing out the parts, and it's a lot of kind of, I don't necessarily want to say empty space, but it is a lot. It doesn't take a lot to fill, that you're writing in there. So I'm wondering if I could just take that section and then kind of enlarge it and move things around a little bit to provide, a double where you can math out and build the suit on, like you said, twofer, math out and build the suit on the same sheet that you are then going to be referencing. So
Yeah, and I made a comment in the Discord. I don't know if you saw, because it was just before the game, where the only point of interlap between the two pages is that you add grace to your speed in order to get your blocks per.
Yeah.
And that made me think, well, there should be probably a place on the suit page for grace, because then you'll just look at it and you'll go grace plus speed equals blocks.
True. Yeah. I'll have to do that. Yeah. That is definitely possible too. I mean, even with the boxes there, I could literally just put like a small box in the corner of the grace box I could do. Yeah, that's definitely possible.
Yeah, you could do it either way, but I think that putting grace on the suit page is easier and clearer.
Oh no, that's
than if you put speed on the PC page.
Oh no, that's what I'm talking about. Is on the suit page. You know how there's like the box for speed. I could take and put like a smaller box like on the corner or the side. Make it work where that is where you put your grace. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely works. Yeah, so just I know we haven't had to necessarily use the suit sheet yet. Suit sheet. Wow, that's hard to say. So I think I'll get into that
suit page
next. In terms of how easy it is to reference and everything after, when we're actually running and using the suits themselves. So, yeah. Other than that, then it was the planning and gathering intel and everything. Did that work well enough? Does it the whole point of it is to kind of give you hints as to what you're going to get at and useful items in the future. So
again, I think that's easier to do once you have a little history in this place, whatever this place is. It's hard to do first session because you're being asked to make up NPCs and relationships. And you're not even sure if you have the right to say, oh yeah, we still have gas stations.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do at the beginning of the game. And I think that that's one place. The gathering intel place might be someplace where you could arm the GM with a not the questions to use, but just some examples of the types of questions you might use. So they have a few leading questions that they can give the players who don't have an immediate idea. If you do have an immediate idea, like I knew right off the bat that I was going to try to take a second look at that map because I have no social connections. Part of my character is that I don't trust anybody except my mentor. So it's either go back to him and ask, basically the question that he just told us the answer to, or use my awareness to try to look at the map. So when I looked at it, I knew what I was going to do. But I could imagine for another character not having an immediate idea and not wanting to just make up the fact that there's a blacksmith in town who owes me a favor.
Right, yeah.
If the GM had given me permission by saying, well, you've been in town for a couple of years. In fact, there's a guy here who owes you a favor. What was his name and what does he do? Now you give me permission to make that guy up, and I'm still kind of the character.
I mean, I thought...
so you don't have to tell the GM what questions to ask, but if you gave them a few examples of the kind of questions, they could help ease that gap a little bit. Because the other way is and the traditional way is for the player to ask the GM, well, you tell me, because I don't know who else is it. You do. Right.
But and I don't disagree, but even with that, all four of us had something and were able to do those scenes and create NPCs and and of course, Jesse ran with, that guy's got a 2-story house and he's got a bunch of work done and blah, blah, blah. Like it all went super smooth for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we know what Jesse needs. We know what the GM needs, and we're thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, we're all used to the, to dip into the core book. We're all used to the writer's room. Right.
Yeah.
So
And
like
honestly,
we've all played core. We are all played together. So
I think that Kurt is better than any of us at that. He has a sort of a humility to the way he plays that is really enjoyable and useful. When you're GMing Kurt, he will hand you the hook to hang him by.
Oh yeah.
And that's a player who's thinking of, whether it's conscious or not, he's giving the GM something the GM needs.
Yeah.
Or will need. And I think that players who have been GMs themselves are more likely to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it ties back to your original thing of, what is this world? Where are we at? What are we doing? So whether that's a session 0 or the first 20 minutes of a campaign, or whatever it is, where you have a more collaborative, almost like Microscope, we're like, all right, everybody, give me some information, unless it's so far out of, we've got spaceships and jet rockets and whatever, like, no, you don't have that, like, don't be stupid. But you have houses, and you have, maybe it's a blacksmith, or maybe because it's, future tech, because this is some vague point in the future, you've got...
Right, but the decision on the superstructure needs to be there. It should be there. Like, we're either playing a game where everybody contributes and session 0 is a collaborative exercise, or we're playing a game where everybody contributes and you put on the spot real quick because that's part of the exercise, or we're playing a game where the GM already knows the answers. All you gotta do is ask.
Yeah.
Right.
But the answer, which one of those are we playing? That question should be answered.
Yeah.
Before we begin playing.
Yeah.
So I think that's an individual table question and answer, right? Like, our virtual table is not going to be the same as someone else's.
Yeah. No, and I think this is where I think a good place to insert that in the rules book would actually be Life Shapers. Like, I think that's a nice character creation aspect, and also I'll probably put notes in there where it's a good time for everyone to just kind of sit down, and at the very, you don't need details, but at the very least, rough out the world around you. And that's
I think this is probably part of the genius of Jason Morningstar. If you think about Fiasco, right? You're going to end up with objects and goals and motivations and money and people and all this. What do you start with? Relationships. Because once you know your relation, the person could be an NPC or a PC, but once you know, I have a relationship to a person, now all of a sudden it becomes much easier to imagine the details of that relationship. What do they get from me? What do I get from them? That assumes that the thing they do for a living exists. A whole lot of world building comes from knowing the relationship exists. I think either emotions, memories, that kind of thing, or relations are the most fertile ground for secretly pulling world building out of people.
Yeah. And that's why, so with the Life Shaper questions I came up with, I tried to leave them not necessarily generic, but open-ended to what the world that you decided to play in. And so I gave it also kind of a couple of leads. So like when I do like who got you into running, like I leave it up to like it can be societal where you're actually like volunteers tribute kind of thing, or is it familial where you inherited the like Matchstick, like Kurt's friend, like his mom's a runner, like he's probably going to become a runner, like so is it familial? So I try to kind of do that, and I think those having those probing questions of of relationships and motivations going into that, and then also using those to then also build up and around, I think could be a good thing. And also Life Shapers takes up like 1/3 of a page. So I got plenty of blank space here to expand upon. And less blank space, less art for me to have to do. So I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like a 1/4 page.
Yeah.
A text right there. Oh yeah. You could take every one of these questions and pretty easily, if you think of like the 6 stats maybe, or 3 classes of people in really, really broad abstract terms or anything like that, then you could come up with 3 or 6 or however many examples for each one of these questions and fill the rest of this page like hard even thinking hard.
Right, yeah.
Right, like what kind of suggestion would be useful for someone who, is maximizing capacity? Well, they're probably going to be, you can make some assumptions. There's some business, there's some stability. Let's put a question in there about who hires you regularly. Let's put a question in here about what's the, what types of items are you most frequently called upon to pull out of the rubble?
Yeah.
That kind of suggests, without asking, I'm saying, what level of technology are you at? Like, because if I ask you that question and you say, batteries, well, then we know that little electronic appliances still exist. You just proved that.
Yeah.
But if you say water, it's like, holy fuck, we're all the way back at a medieval level. And
yeah. Yeah, and it could, obviously we're, they're runners working with high-tech suits, but it could hint at the, the null zone that they come from. Like if you said like the technology level, and it's like, yeah, water and wind and shit. Like, oh, all right, so this is where you're at, where, the mill by the river is how you press your grain, because they have to use the water turbine to grind everything. Like that's the level of basic technology that everybody else is at.
I can imagine, although I don't really know a lot about the specifics to this, but I'm imagining in medieval times, the whole village pitching in, so like one dude can have a suit of armor.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Now,
nice. All right.
and that's cool. But if there was a leading question in there, you could force me to invent something while telling you about my suit of armor, without even realizing that I'm doing world building for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is one thing. And one of the reasons I really kind of like doing this is like the things I was super focused on in creating this game were like building your suit and running, right? And like how you accomplish that and what the world was and everything like that. Like I had a picture in my brain of what it was. And so I just I was like, hey, here's some general shit. You deal with it now. So, but yeah, like now we're actually coming up with stuff to do that, but it's not just random things. It's not like, all right, here's like a few sentences of what it could be like, or like, here's a table of 10 things to pick from, pick one, and then it's done. Like we're actually creating like stuff that's tied into the mechanics and and also then ties into the characters. And like you said, like feeds all of the creative shit all at the same time. So
yeah, hopefully. And that's why leading questions instead of just questions.
Right? Exactly.
Leading questions starts where you're at. It's like grafting 2 plants together, right? You can't just make a straight cut. They won't stick together. You can cut at an angle, and smooth them into each other, and then they might hold. You just start with the structure that's already there, and slowly graft on more of the new structure as you go.
Mm-hmm.
Start with what's already there. Well, what's already there is basically the PC as a concept. If I slowly branch out from that, I can imagine it's not too hard for me to think of somebody I have a relationship with, father, mother, teacher. Those are all pretty easy. Okay, imagine that person. All right, are they old? Are they young? Have you been with them a long time, a short time? Are they nice to you? Are they mean to you? And as you answer these questions, like, oh, well, what do you mean he's mean to you? And I'll give you some answer about how he forces me to pull coal out of the mine all night and all day.
Right.
And I've just told you that we're a coal mining village. And all I was really picturing was, I don't know, what abused kid forced to labor coal, yeah.
Right. Yep.
Very Dickensian.
Yeah, I probably did have great expectations in the back of my head now that you think about it. Or it might have been the Appalachias, but either way.
Right, yeah.
Either way, I was picturing me, the star of the movie, me, the abused little kid, and what scene bad people, put me in. But in picturing that, I told you something useful about your whole world. And I didn't have to put on a world builder cap or step out of the kid mind to do it.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right. So, are there any, other than what we've covered, are there any other like critiques or comments or anything that you had like during the process of creation or gameplay or anything like that?
Aside from the world building
semantic
issue, right? I mean, that's which we've discussed. My only other thing, and again, like, because it's so similarly bonded to me in a red market sense. So, like, perhaps a negotiation, like, hey, we need to get this. Well, what's in it for us? As opposed to like, hey, we need to go get this thing. You're going to go get it. Right. And then you come back and you give it to me or whatever. So there could be, because there's already rules set up for like the verbal dialogue in the Day Trippers GM's guide. Right. So there could be, a subset, like in Red Market's like a whole sub game where they have this whole elaborate thing where you get a negotiation. And it doesn't have to be that, but it could be like, a series or a handful of rolls of, charm and exploitation or whatever to try to get a better cost or to, find out who the contact is. Maybe you cut the other guy out. There could be that aspect maybe melded onto it. There doesn't need to be, right? It could just be, hey, the community needs you to go get this thing.
Yeah.
Do you have like a random MacGuffins table?
I don't.
There you go. Random MacGuffin. Maybe with a modifier based on like civic level or something. So like, you get a plus, or maybe you roll more dice, for more civilized areas. And then that's something that they frequently use here. Something that good chance you'll be able to sell here in this village, maybe not in the next village over. Maybe an economy can develop, and it all came from making a couple random rolls.
I mean, that could be part of the Null Zone generation. It could be there could be something that specific zone depends on, or
for sure. In fact, there you go. Give every Null Zone a thing they are known for producing, and a thing that they need a lot. There you go. Those two things.
Yeah.
Right back.
Nice. So in terms of gathering intel, then, like, is it too simple in the rule? Like, does it just leave too much up to like the table to just create? Because I literally, like, the rules are like, make a hard check, do it however you want. Is that too simple, or?
Well, so I guess it depends too, right? Like on the world building, right? So like if you're, if my guy's 25 and he's been in this Null Zone for 10 years, then you'd have a pretty good idea of what's going on around you, maybe. Well, you know, if you're not a runner, maybe not, right? Like maybe you never leave. But runners come and go. So you think you would at least get some scuttlebutt to, you know, maybe 5 is really hard. Like if you don't have some skill to add, like maybe you could make a streetwise check to maybe lower the difficulty level and then make that check with or you know, make that check with a bonus if you make your skill check or you know, something to be able to manipulate that number. Like, okay, well, I agreed to get the guy the stew recipe, so you know, it lowered the DL that I had to hit to get some information that he may have. And people may not know anything, right? So like I feel like it could go either way, right? Like maybe you go and you don't know what's going on. You know,
I know that I missed the beginning of what you're saying, and I'm just jumping in on the end of it here, but I wanted to plug into this sentence a note that I made while we were playing with a question mark after it. It said, promise economy and rumor economy.
Yeah.
And I think this could work really well. You'd have to be vague about it. It's kind of like the dialogue tables, you know, they're really kind of vague and they're meant to be. No. But a rumor could be worth a +1 on a thing like that, or a promise. And you promise somebody a book of matches, you know, maybe you'll get a +1. If you promise them a flashlight with 2 full batteries, you know, that's a definite +1, maybe even a +2. You got to, you know, you never know, but you got to be rough about it. But I think it could totally work. And in a situation like post-apocalyptic, trying to build civilization back together kind of thing, it totally makes sense. Rumors and promises, you tied it right in, man. You make somebody a promise. Let's mechanize that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm wondering, and then if I should at least hint, if not make it official, that like there can be that, but you know, that check before check type thing, you know, like, okay, make a charm roll to see if you succeed on that, to then lower the DL or of the final check. But my issue would that lead into all right, well, the DL's 5, so I'm gonna schmooze them and like offer this and then talk to it and charm roll, and now my DL's a 1. Like,
yeah, I think you try to talk as long as you can until you get to a point where everything's on the table and now it's clear to roll. Because like I say, well, will you give me the job? And you say no, and I say, well, what if I add this in? And you say, well, he's still not too sure. You haven't actually rolled. You're just expressing his position. Yeah. And I'm trying to add points to my argument, and you're either deflecting them or going, is that all you got? And then when I finally say, okay, here's my final offer, this is what I want, we can now let the dice hit the table. You use my final offer as the modifier on a number that for you never changed. Yeah. It's my modifier that changed as we were talking. Yeah.
The other thing is not everybody's going to have, you know, if you had 4 characters and one of them's got, you know, a 1 in charm, you're probably not getting good information. And maybe you get wrong information, you know, with a no but, right? Like,
yeah, that's the other problem with anything involving perception, knowledge, information, lore, you know, noticing things ambiently. All those kinds of situations may lead to a mistaken impression and therefore should be rolled by the GM secretly or hidden as something else.
Yeah. Well, so that's one thing that we didn't get into yet, and we will next session, is you know, all 4 of you gathered a piece of intel. The next point is actually using that. So when you get to nexus points, you can actually use that intel it's like a bargaining chip. So you take it and you use that to modify the result of the nexus point. But so you have the ones that you were successful on. I have the ones that you weren't so successful on. So we can both modify it one way or the other. So there is a side effect of bad intel.
Yeah.
Do you want to mechanize that? Like put a number
It
or
is.
a token? Like on the PC
It is.
sheet?
Maybe.
So you're talking about like kind of like carrying initiative in D&D? Or inspiration, I mean.
It's yeah, it's kind of like inspiration, except it goes both ways. You know what, actually it's kind of what was the story tokens in when we were playing
tokens?
Other Borders.
Drama
Tokens. It's like drama tokens. Where the players have a pool of them and the GM also has a pool of them. So that's what the intel is like. So you have a pool of your successful intel and I have a pool of your not so successful intel.
But
Yeah,
the
you do want that
character
on the
would know
sheet or
that.
people will forget.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want people to use it, I find the same thing is true of, character development scenes. People forget because it's not on the sheet.
Yeah.
We almost never do them. Because if it's not in front of your eyes, you'll forget.
Right, yeah. So we'll do the intel on the sheet.
One of the things, there are very few. I think that playing online is great. There are very few things that I think playing face to face is like literally better, objectively better. But one of them is the use of tokens. Because when you give somebody a poker chip or a glass bead or it's sitting there in front of them, they can't ignore it. And they want to fiddle with it and they want to use it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And actually, so that's the reason that the power reserve is designed the way it is when I was creating the system, I didn't want you to have to constantly fill in stuff or make numbers and then erase and change and everything. So I was on Reddit looking for, just tossing the net out, asking people. Someone said, what about cubes? And so I actually designed it so that you could have little, and even if it's dice or whatever, but you could put something in the place so that it's something physical on the, and with the PDF, you did it exactly, or where you can just click, right? You don't have to worry about erasing.
Yeah, you got your ones column and you got your tens column. You may have already figured out that this is what was originally the idea of the powers in the old Day Trippers PC sheet. There's a section centered that is rows of 10 little circles you're supposed to fill in as you use up your power. Well, nobody ever does. But that itself was a compromise. The back on storygames.com, the original idea was you would have tokens. You'd have a big fucking pile of them. And every time you did something, you'd have to kick one out. And you'd see your pile getting smaller in front of your eyes.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what, the physical nature too of having that actual physical reserve there and using that and having to take one of those away, was also the inspiration for, kind of the drive for doing that. So,
and we were thinking much more tactically, if you think about it at the time, because now that you've played it and we've played Day Trippers dozens of times, how often do you get in a situation where the amount of power remaining in your suit even fucking matters? Almost never. So doing the math, filling in the little circles would be a waste of time 90% of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Duke got fucked up that one time, but I don't know that he was like...
It was an issue on INRA, but the reason it was an issue on INRA was because you were stranded without means of escape for weeks.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up that same mission. That was the one time that power really mattered.
Yeah.
In other words, the GM has to be pulling some sort of big narrative conceit in order to fuck you that hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I thought it went well. I mean, it was mostly an RP session, and doing the route, checking the suits, but that's honestly
Yeah, in running, when if we're splitting it into the two groups of the pre-run and then the run itself, that front end is going to be, it's like reverse downtime. Downtime, if you think of it, usually happens like after an adventure and you're shopping and upgrading, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But like if you look at a run, there's three parts to it. There's pre-downtime where you're gathering all your intel, then the actual run, and then post-downtime where you're selling and settling up your debts and all that kind of stuff. So
recovering.
Yeah,
maybe that's something maybe that's something I also have to mention too, of like the the structure of a runner adventure.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you think about it, it fits that traditional 3 acts in 4 equal parts. Because the second act is twice as long as the first or the third, because it's got the climax in the middle of it, and then the fallout from it, and then you've got what you called your final downtime, right? So you've got your prep is Act 1. Act 2 is long. It's the mission itself. It peaks in the middle, and then you come back home. And then Act 3 is downtime. It fits the narrative arc perfect. I would say go ahead and mention it, and the fact that you mention it, like if you put a header, well, now you have to put at least 1 sentence of body text. We've just forced you to make the GM think for a second. This is Act 1. Here's what happens in Act 1. Here's the kinds of things you do in Act 1. Right? You force them to think, even just saying 1 sentence about it. This is what we call Act 1, and in Act 1, these things will happen. You force the GM to accept a narrative arc as an idea without spelling it out. Literally, you don't have to be a full-blown narrativist to get this idea. But you did make the GM stop and think there, which is going to turn out to be important, I think, if a lot of games, like we just did tonight, take a little time getting going. You'll often find that's a useful breakpoint. Okay. So give it a structural reason for being a breakpoint.
Right.
And we haven't said Act 1 is session 0, because that feels a little hardcore, but that's actually what we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So I think
we've kind of boxed you out up there. You have any other?
No, I thought, like you said, it was I think it went good. I'm interested to when we start doing the rolling to do all those mechanics.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think, as we've said and all the other times, I think we all work well together. We've all played with each other enough that the RP part isn't an issue. But I think the points, Jesse, that you wanted to make sure that how RP works in a system, I think that worked out really well. I think it was really fun. I'm really intrigued to see what happens when we actually get out and do a run. That's gonna be cool. But no, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. So
yeah.
How does presence work? Jesse, how does presence work? I'm trying to be stealthy.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite. It's the opposite of presence. It's a plus.
It is. Yeah.
On something
Exactly. Yeah.
So how does it work?
Yep. So presence. So let's take an example of like say like a security camera, right? So say there's you're trying to sneak by this or pass by this area that's heavily secured with a handful of security cameras going through. When you go to sneak by, the awareness of the person looking out will be boosted by your presence score. So if you have a +4, then their roll will be modified by your +4.
Okay, so
Wow,
he's
that
rolling
much?
to see me.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so it's him rolling to see me, not me rolling to avoid being seen.
Yeah.
I
Does
get it.
that make sense, or should I flip that around?
I think
I
guess
think
it depends on whether or not somebody's actively watching, right? Like,
Okay,
Well,
the
what's he-
reason
I
it
mean-
becomes complicated is because we already have a word called stealth, which is a skill, and stealth is used plus means I'm hiding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yet, when I face this camera, I'm going to tell you I'm using my stealth. So my
Oh,
plus
absolutely. Yeah.
+2 means I'm hiding, and then
Yep.
you've got a +4 says I'm not hiding. Plus means yes and no. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So I kind of think like you want to roll the other way around. Instead of calling it
Yeah.
presence, I think you want to call it something like whatever the opposite of presence is, invisibility, or
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, mechanically, I could see flip. The easiest solution I could see from a mechanic standpoint is to simply flip it. So right now I have them as a plus to your presence. I could just do it as a negative, and I would have to change the name because having a negative to your presence is like a stealthy type thing. But I could, instead of having it as a plus to the onlooker, I could have it as a negative to your stealth or survival or whatever. And then I just have to change the name to it. But yeah, it then puts all of the numbers on your side instead of you having to then add stuff to the other side.
Yeah, and I think typically you want to put the numbers on the player side in case they want to take agency. However, there are cases where the camera, you want to know if the camera sees me, and I don't even know the camera's there. That's
right. Yeah,
that's a different problem.
That was originally the concept of presence, but I couldn't mechanically figure it out. It was a presence was originally a hard number that you didn't roll. So like if you had stealth though, then it would be affected by that. So say you had like a 4 presence and you have a +2 in stealth. Well, then your presence is now a 2 instead of a 4. And that would be, but I couldn't figure out because it doesn't make sense logically of like, do I increase the DL at that point? And it was in my mind, it just made it easier to make it a modifier instead of a hard number.
I'm going to go jump off now. So guys, I'll check the email and then we can figure out when we're going to come back again. I don't know if you picked a date yet already or not.
we haven't.
No, not yet. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, just shoot me an email.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thanks,
Kevin.
Take it easy.
See you guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, a 1-for-1 on that ratio is really rough. I mean, if someone's got even just a 2 in brains, they're getting a +4. Like, and if you don't have stealth, like, I get seeing it be like
the
a 2 for
difficulty
1.
scale is only 10. So even a +1, that's 10% of the difficulty scale. It's nothing to scoff at.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're adding your presence, so like my presence is a +3. So if the person trying to see me gets a +3 before a roll even happens,
I got a 4.
Yeah, so you're gonna be seen all the time.
Yeah.
I could see it being like half, right? So like so for every 2 they got a +1, maybe. I don't know if that's too mathy.
Well, I mean the alternative then could be making it a DL that they have to roll against.
I'm trying to think of how I do this kind of thing in Day Trippers, and I think it's 2 different things. One, like I'll tell you that there's security on this building, and I'll write in the adventure model, that the security is level 5. That means beating this camera or whatever is a DL5. So that puts the roll on the player. Now, as far as the question of like, if you're being like, what if you don't know the camera's there? I think honestly, the way that I usually handle this is I kind of ask you a vague question right off the bat about how you're going in. And that lets me know whether you're thinking stealthy or not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not sure, and I could literally ask you, okay, so are you being stealthy or are you going fast as you can? What's the priority? And you tell me, and then I know whether I'm going to give you a roll or make one secretly against you. But you have told me.
Yeah. Well, that was so that's the difficulty that I had with presence too, is that it's not just so like the example that we just talked about was with like security cameras and stuff, but presence is overall. So it's for machinery, like it's for like security systems, it's for like guard dogs, it's for X's, it's
Just
for
walking
scavengers,
around,
it's for
yeah.
mutes, it's a modifier that goes into how noticeable you are to everything in the burnt. So that's
know.
why I had such a hard time kind of figuring out exactly what that number should be.
I understand it, and that may be too abstract. Maybe that's why it can be problematic. One could see, like the way Vincent Baker would approach this is probably tags. Like you can buy this unit and it's cheaper than the other unit, the same exact bonus, but this costs a little more because the other one says bulky or noisy. That's literally it. It says noisy.
Yeah.
And then that means, you have plus or minus one when that comes up.
Yeah.
The downside of that is, well, okay, the GM kind of has to remember that.
Right, yeah. I mean, I could also just I could modify presence itself to just make it a lower number.
I mean, giving someone a bonus or a negative, right? So, like, depending on how you want to do it, right? So, if you ask the leading question, how are you coming in? Oh, we're going to try to be stealthy. Okay, give me a stealth, and again, if you use for every 2, you get a modifier, right? So, like, if my presence is 4, I get a -2 to my stealth roll to be stealthy, or if as the GM that someone's lying in wait, for someone to walk through to be jumped because there's, bandits, they get a +2 conversely on their awareness check, as you're coming through. And then maybe that's an opposed roll, my stealth versus their awareness. Or if I don't care and I'm just running through as fast as I can, then they get that +2 on their awareness. And I'm not even getting a roll because I'm not, like Todd said, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just trying to get through as fast as I can. I mean, that's the easiest thing. It's a little mathy, but like it's a sentence. For every 2 points in presence rounded down, you either get a plus +1 or -1.
And honestly, that's why in the gear section, Todd, you kind of hit on it, is like a lot of the things that kind of give you speed also boost your presence, because it's that similar thing. It was exactly what you said. Like, I'm just going as fast as I can and I'm not thinking about how I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my thought process in doing that as well. But I'm wondering if too many things affect your presence or not.
I like the idea of that trade-off. I think tags are interesting, although so far there hasn't been a core game that uses tags. But I think tags are cool if you remember that.
Right. Yeah.
Because in my mind, the next step, part of me already started doing it. I can tell you, I think it's 3 things. It's noisy, bulky, and hot. Hot means electronic.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you can your equipment can be noisy, bulky, or hot. And those are 3 different ways of having presence.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be good. It'd just take the numbers out of it. And at that point too, it's
maybe your mod, or maybe the plus that you cut in half, like a la John's theory, is simply the number of adjectives. Like the adjectives are always bad. Bulky and hot, that's 2 from a -1.
True, yeah. I mean, it could also when we come into Nexus points, that could also be something that the GM can use to modify outcomes as well. Like, okay, yeah, well, it would have been this, except, your suit's pretty loud. So instead,
Yeah, exactly.
it's something
You just
that can be
have to
used a
remember
few
it's
different
there.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's pretty cool. And tags are a neat device. I haven't explored them a lot in my own work, but I do enjoy games that use them, especially if there's a sort of a well-defined pool of tags, 20, maybe 30, like no more than that. You don't want to go nuts.
Yeah. All right. Tags are in. Yeah, I'm going to look for those. Yeah, I like that idea.
Well, so if you're going to have negative, then you probably need to have positive if you're going to modify the way that number works, because there is stuff that lowers your presence as well.
Yeah,
True.
we could go the other way. I mean, so the opposite of noisy is quiet. The opposite of hot is what? Faraday cage, digitally secure. I don't know what to call that. Digitally quiet.
Yeah. I know what you're going for. Yeah.
Shielded. No, we already used that word.
Yeah. Right.
Fuck. Okay,
well,
and then the
last one's
opposite.
compact.
Well,
yeah, compact.
Sure. Yeah. There you go. Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, we could. It could just be, two lists, like 10 positives, 10 negatives. Like, they're your tags.
Make up a word like that's fairly obvious. Like if you invented digi hot and digi cold, I think I'd have a pretty good guess what you meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe they're detected in different ways too. Although maybe that's getting too gamey, right? So like if you've got infrared, you see something that's digi hot that you may not see with your regular awareness if it's dark or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
I mean, it could be having adjectives too that aren't necessarily tied to a specific mechanic works too. So if something's hot, it could be picked. It means that it gives off a stronger electrical signal, but in producing a stronger electrical signal, it also produces more heat. So it'll be picked up more on electrical sensors, but any security equipment or animals that have heat related vision, the GM could also
it's
use
open
that
to
tag.
Interpretation, which is totally a core way to go.
Exactly,
like I know I want a +3 dagger and I can pay for it, but now I have to invent why it's +3, and that's what core wants you to do. Right?
Yeah. It's funny. I went in with the same, like Monster Hunt. I went in, I was upset at how long that book was. And I think it's like 20 something pages. And I went in with to runners the same thing. I'm like, I want to make this as quick and concise as possible. And it's just like pages keep getting added on, but I'm actually okay with it now.
Yeah, I mean,
it looks great.
It's what, 35, 40 pages right now?
I think at this point it's actually a little longer.
40
40 pages, including like the sheets and stuff.
So I mean, I could see this being, a 50 or 60 page book. If you wanted it to be, right? Like, depending how much stuff you wanted to add, how much stuff you wanted to change. Like what you have works right now. Like you could sell this as it is and play it and run it as it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, again, some of the, hey, this is an example of, how you might want to create a null zone with your players. You just ask these leading questions, generate some PCs, generate some relationships, or have in mind relationships that your PCs may have with other, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, give an example of, Bob knows Charlie who does the blah, 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 and he does the, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No, I mean, there's stuff here too that's going to make it longer, but it's going to make it longer in a positive way. So
When
that's all I care about.
I just recently took bog from what was essentially a glorified day tripper's adventure to something where you could actually, I think, run a whole extended campaign, as your home world kind of a thing. And it ended up being 50 pages. And I still would like to add a couple more, and they touch on similar issues, actually. It's kind of like starting off session 0 stuff, building relationships, maybe tying that to Lifescapers. And then also maybe a little bit about how to extend this out if you want to play campaign style, ways to do that. So without those two parts, which is basically like the same parts you're missing.
Yeah.
A world is about 50 pages. That's the way.
Yeah.
I think it works out.
Well, I need to start rewriting then. About 20 pages too short.
Well, no, I mean, with
Jesse has tableitis.
I do. I think it's slightly different with Cthulhu though, because it's based. You're not necessarily creating
a regular world.
Yeah, you're not creating a world. You're creating a feeling for that world. So it's there's a lot more that you can just assume. There's less that you have to create in terms of that aspect.
Yeah, I don't want to redo 1920s history and include all that stuff in there, right? Like you either have some vague idea of what that is, or you just sort of fudge your way through it.
Yeah. Or it's stuff that, as we found as we play, we live in an internet age. Like, it's stuff that you can easily Google. You can search for it and get a response that makes sense. Like, you can't Google what like kind of transportation they have in Bog, because it doesn't exist until Todd writes it. Like, so
true. In fact, I feel that there's one kind of animal that I missed. I needed the world needs an animal you can ride that doesn't fly.
Oh, because I was going to say the gas bags.
I don't know about riding a gas. Doesn't sound a good idea to me. So I do have flying creatures, but only the Warmen ride them. But I thought, as I started thinking about overland travel and working in those last few tables about random encounters and wilderness speeds and shit, I went, shit, they don't have anything like a horse.
Yeah.
Oversight, but oh well.
Yep. No, definitely. I definitely want, once you release that, and I started reading through it, the very first thought that I had was, I know exactly where the next Megamon adventure is happening.
There's a couple of creatures I dropped the names of, but never even statted. There's something I called. Oh, really? I think I called it Plane Stomper. And then I never statted it. So there's something out there called a Plane Stomper. There's your Megamon beast.
That is, that's so, and that's a good one too.
It's so rarely seen that it doesn't even have stats in the book.
That's perfect. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
I think we beat this to death, right?
I think so. I have plenty of work to do within the next foreseeable future.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, thanks for running, putting it together. It was,
thanks for playing.
Yeah, cool. Have Todd play something.
Right.
Other Borders is kind of like we're all sort of playing, but like play.
Yep.
It's definitely cool looking at the character sheet from the other side. And is this the first time I played Core? It is.
Seriously?
I think it's the first time I've actually been a player in a Core game. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not the first time I played a child, though. That seems to be a recurring theme with me. And I only realized it today because I was just casting back on other characters. And, whoa, I was a child in that campaign. Oh, and the one before that, I also played a kid. Whoa, wow. There's a therapist would have put his finger on that immediately.
You beat me, too. My youngest PC was 11. So you beat me by 1 year. No.
That was actually John's fault because he said 10 years ago. And I went, okay, then I'm 10.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for helping with this. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. This is what we wanted to. I knew we wanted to get at least some post show in too, which is another sort of impetus to kind of get the game rolling, so we would have some time to, kick around all the different parts.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, John, like I was kind of at that same point, which is why I think this was a perfect time to run it. I personally, I think I could throw runners up right now on drive-through, and it would be a perfectly adequate system. But this is going to add that kind of extra depth that I think it really they'll really help. So
I agree. I think you have a saleable product right now, and if you just give people a little bit more to get them off the ground quicker, you have an exemplary product here. It looks fucking beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, the art's amazing.
Well, all the art's going out the window. So when I did the new layout, I'm not sure so if you've seen the Life Shapers, you've seen the dual column one then, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So once I did that, I was like, well, all the art that I created, I can't really use anymore. So I'm going to have to create new artwork to fill in all the gaps. So,
well,
yeah,
bummer, I guess, but the 2-column layout looks so fucking good.
Oh yeah, I'm sticking with that. Definitely. Yeah. So the 2-column is in, and now I just need new artwork to fill in like the end of chapter stuff and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, because everything I created previously was meant to fill in space width-wise. Yeah. So now everything I'm going to have to start creating stuff that's more tall to fill in the areas better. So
yeah.
Plus, if you want to, I don't know if you do anywhere, but it gives you room to, like, if you want to do a sidebar or drop an example in, you can shove it off on the side. Or
there's actually a few spots, and now that I'm not too concerned with now that I'm not too concerned with page length, with book length, I think I'll start kind of monopolizing that column more for the GM note type of stuff. So
cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, it looks great, and I'm sure it's going to look even greater.
And you'll see this in about 3 or 7 months. We'll see.
This is it's really kind of cool. I mean, I think the way that, and I don't think this is necessarily on purpose, but like we all are learning from each other as we go, right? So Mark dropped a fucking work in progress today that just fucking blew me away.
Oh, I can't wait. I saw it and I haven't had time to actually look through it.
So I feel like each time I create something, I'm pushing the bar of a core design a little bit higher, and not just in terms of the mechanics, but in terms of making the book look good and feel good. And Unnatural was a nice little book. It looked better than Day Trippers, but Bog looks way better than Unnatural, and Runners looks better than Bog. And I'm sorry, but Mark's book looks better than all of us. It's like the bar just keeps going up and up on the core books. I cannot fucking complain at all.
Yeah.
They're just looking better and better all the time, man.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool. All right.
All right. Well, I am going to end this. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace.